of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whenever the attendance sheet is completed, if somebody could hand that back up to me, I appreciate it. Our second item of business is to ratify last January's approval of the January 2015 annual meeting minutes. Do I have?
Everyone got a copy today in the mail. And there's a few, if anyone wants to look at them, they're on the table.
Do I have a motion? Okay, here we have our last trustee, right here, the hot seat in the corner. Want to do the limbo? Come over here, or
Are you asking me to crawl under the table?
are there three?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I have a motion to ratify.
In case you didn't get agendas or anything.
That was the order.
Okay.
Yeah, this we got the.
Barbara has made a motion to ratify the approval of the January 2015 annual meeting minutes. Sandy has seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions?
I didn't even get a chance to look at this yet.
I wasn't here for 20.
You people really should
Okay, so
abstain.
let's start this over again. All in favor? Raise your hands high. Okay, you have to,
We have 7.
okay. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Do I have to write 6 abstentions? I'm sorry, I need one second.
Liz, are you abstaining?
Yes, I'm abstaining.
Okay, so the 5 new trustees are abstaining. That's fine, correct.
Thank you. Also, at last January's annual meeting, there were other motions in addition to approving the 2015 annual meeting minutes that were taken. And at this time, I would call upon a trustee to make a motion to ratify the other actions that were taken at the January 2015 annual meeting, specifically the election of officers. Do I have a motion? Sandy, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Paulette, any discussion?
Kathy, we didn't have a quorum at that.
Actually, what I said when I was discussing the handout, in January and February, under our 2015 bylaws, we did have a quorum. However, in March of 2016, there was a meeting with RCLS and DLD in which they told us that our 2015 bylaw change on the quorum was not valid, even though that was the same quorum that was in the 1991 and the 1996 bylaws. So we ratified a lot of the actions that were taken at the regular January board meeting. We ratified the actions that were taken at the regular, in quotes, February board meeting. And now today I'm asking for a ratification of the actions that were taken at the January 2016 annual meeting. So I had a motion made, I had a second. Is there any further discussion? I will call the question. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay. Any abstentions?
Liz abstained, I saw her hand go up.
What about Liz?
I'm opposed.
Opposed? Okay. Did you say she had abstained?
I thought she abstained, but there was the time delay. She opposed.
Right,
Right,
For
Liz?
the second vote, I'm voting opposed.
Okay, so 3 opposed and 2 abstained. Correct. And 6 in favor.
Okay.
Is that yes?
So I will ask for an opinion about two things from our legal counsel, Laura Wongpan, who is here with us today. Under our bylaws, until there is a new election of officers, do the previously elected officers continue in office?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we talked about that. They continue in office until
Their
this vote today,
successors.
until the successors are chosen.
Okay.
So you have three positions today that are.
No, we're not up to
No,
that.
we're not up to
We're
that.
talking about
I'm getting ahead.
Okay. Given that vote on the ratification, do the 2015 officers remain the 2016, and by extension, the 2017 officers until people are elected for new officers tonight?
In other words, that's that the list.
You understand, so that wasn't ratified last year, that decision from January 2016. It was not ratified last year.
The only thing that was ratified were the decisions and votes taken at the January regular board meeting.
But all the people who believed that they sat in that position as of January 2016 continued to serve that role as
And
officers.
we not
I
only
don't think there's
serve,
an issue, I think you should, I would recommend moving to the 2017.
okay. With that being said, and I would also augment what our council has said, in that the entire board and the library throughout 2016 relied on the treasurer from West Missouri and myself as president to be signers on all of our bank accounts and investment accounts, had us sign any transfer or checks that were for more than $2,500, had us sign contracts, for instance, with the town of Monroe for the annual taxpayer support amount, had us represent the board at various meetings with not only RCLS, but also with the LD, and in general, de facto ratified us serving as the officers in 2016. The next item on the agenda in the bylaws is to have a vote on the 3 trustees who, up until a very short while ago, had terms that were supposed to expire in 2017. Those 3 trustees whose terms for the last at least 5 years or longer were set to expire in 2017, aside from my own, was Paulette Brown, our acting vice president, and Denise Harris, our past president for several years and longtime trustee. At this time, does the nominating committee chair wish to independently
You just
ask
did, Kathy.
the
You
3
just did.
trustees about
Okay.
their willingness to
The
renew
3
their term?
trustees have been contacted, and the 3 trustees agreed to stay on.
Okay,
So I believe now we have to have a vote on it.
okay, and is it the pleasure of the chair to hold individual votes or to vote on the 3 renewing?
I'd like to nominate Jack Atkins for the board.
We're not,
We're not up to
We're
that
not up
yet,
to
we're
that.
talking about
we're not up to
reviewing
that.
it.
We're going
Yeah,
to
but,
ask for.
no, it's the same thing, because the nominating committee made a recommendation, but there's nothing that prevents anybody from nominating others,
And
and
we're
then there will be
getting,
a
we're getting
vote.
to that. We're going to take nominations from the floor. We didn't get to it yet.
We're not electing officers yet, we're
We
simply
didn't get
talking
to it.
about the renewing
Yeah,
trustees.
but the renewal of the trustees is not a guarantee. Trustees
That's
either have
that's
to
why
be
we're gonna
renewed
vote
or
on it.
elect, or a new trustee elected. So the fact that somebody has been on the board doesn't guarantee them a renewal of their position.
That's why
So
we're
what I
voting.
understood
That's
is somebody was nominating
why
somebody else.
We're voting on it. That's why we're voting on it.
My understanding is that you can't, let's say you, for example, can't be removed from your position until there's someone to put into your position. So we can't say no to you without saying yes
No,
to
that's
someone
not
else.
true.
That's
I
my
can be
understanding.
removed. If you read our bylaws, there are areas where trustees can be removed.
No, I mean in this election, I don't mean in general. I don't mean for
According
laws.
to your bylaws, what it states is that and according to section 703, as you pointed out, and we verified of the not-for-profit law, it clearly states that a trustee remains in their position until they are replaced or re-elected. And your bylaws specifically state that the executive positions remain in place until the executives are replaced or re-elected. So right now, if I understood correctly, you made a nomination of the three, you made a nomination for three people.
I didn't
who-
finish. I was going
Okay.
to say that we were going to vote on them one at a time rather than all three.
But before you could vote, other people can be nominated. And then there are multiple people running for the three positions. And it's possible that somebody else might get elected. What I'm saying is you can't vote on the three until you open the nominations and one of your trustees has nominated somebody else. And that's perfectly acceptable at your annual meeting. So
Are
if
there
there's...
any other
I
nominations?
second Pat's nomination.
Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Donna Deming.
I don't know how this works, but I'm very interested in becoming a trustee, either now or at some point. I don't know if I should talk about myself, or I don't know how this works. Okay, I've been living in Monroe, my husband and I, for 3 years. As my resume, right now, I'm a social worker for hospice of Orange and Sullivan counties. Prior to that, I worked in financial services for over 20 years. I worked as a project manager at Morgan Stanley for quite a few years. I worked at HSBC, helping them to roll out the C-car regulation. I worked at Fidelity Investments for quite a few years, Citibank. My roles were relationship management, taking care of customers, calling on investment banks, and then doing a lot of project management work. I facilitated meetings as a social worker. I run a bereavement group. I don't know what to tell you, but to sum myself up in a few minutes. But I'm looking for a way to give back to the community. And in my role as a social worker, I'm able to come home from work earlier, around like 4:30. So it's not that anxiety of working in the city, trying to get back on time, so I'm free in that sense. And, to be made available to volunteer, to attend all the board meetings, and help in any way that I can. So I'd like to be considered, and if not now, then I second no.
Point of information, please. Shouldn't the people who run for any office have a, like this nice woman did, a little biography, but shouldn't the public be able to look at that before any of the people come on the board so they can comment?
Not necessarily.
Okay, but it could
Because
be.
it's a nomination from the floor, so that can't possibly happen. What this person has done is shared her background.
Right, but
If
can
she
I
had been
evaluate?
nominated ahead of time, then that could have
Couldn't I
happened.
evaluate everybody who wants to be on the board and make a comment as a library patron? I don't know how you could vote without putting it out to the public, to these people and
Because
and
the
their
only people that are
biographies.
eligible to vote are the people that are the trustees. In Monroe, The Monroe Free Library is an association library,
Got it.
and the association consists of the members of the board. It has never been opened more broadly. In other libraries within our CLS, associations can include anybody who lives in the community. That is not the case in Monroe. That's not to say it can't be changed, but at the moment, the way the bylaws are written, the only people in the association are the members of the board. And so
And
the
they do
only,
the nominations, they can re-elect themselves.
that's correct.
It seems,
It does, you know, I'm not gonna make comments about it, but the point
Okay.
is, that's the way it's set up. We do have one or two other libraries within our 47 members that are like that. Most are not.
I'd also like to nominate Charlie Levasseur for a position on the board.
Should I
If
give
I-
some biography about myself, or
Sure, Jack.
if, I mean,
Yeah.
Can we just, I think it might be good just to talk about the process.
Sure.
Because I think there's, nominations and they're not seconded and then it's left.
They
Well,
were
that's what
seconded.
was seconded. Okay, there's three positions, so, I mean, typically there'd be a nomination either for the three people whose position expired or for anyone else.
Well,
and then
in
there'll
fact,
be
if a
vote.
nominating committee makes a recommendation, it doesn't need to be seconded. The committee has, any committee's recommendations do not have to be seconded. It's a motion of a committee, and it becomes something that can be acted on by the board. The other people that are being nominated from the floor, and they do need a second.
Right, okay.
That's Robert's rules
So
of
once
order.
there's the slate, then they will vote on all of the people who've been nominated and
Correct.
second as, in addition to the three who are on the
Correct.
list. Just so everyone's understanding.
Well, I have a
Handling
question.
the process.
I don't know if there's a second for Charles Levasseur. But we know that his wife, Diane Levasseur, is one of the appointees on the board. And I don't know, are you still the president of the Friends?
Well, we haven't had an election this year. The Friends have not been active in the last 2 years or so I have to say no.
So my question to Mr. Upshur and council is, are we treating the three renewing trustees as one entity and the three nominations from the floor as one entity to vote on?
No, they're all individual. What the nominating committee did is put the names of three existing trustees up for re-election. Those are individual nominations. So there will be, right now, there are, if I understood correctly and I counted right, there are 6 people who are vying for 3 positions. So each of those 6 people, and there may be more nominations from the floor, each of those 6 people will get individual ballots, and they will be elected on their own merits by a majority of the members of the association.
I have a question for Council. As I understood, those 3 trustees' term finishes in 2017. That means December 31st.
No, their term ended actually, according, and there's an anomaly there, their term ended December.
I asked the council.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that
Would you
this is
please
the
allow the
fact.
council to respond? The question was directed at him.
According to the annual report, their term.
Well, yes, but Mr. Upshur requested Marilyn to change it, our terms, and for the
No,
last
we didn't
15
request it,
years.
the DLD, the Division of Library Development did because they tracked it back, they review everything, they're the ones who said this, we went back and we determined with their help and with Marilyn's help, when people were elected and when their terms came to an end.
Okay, but you know what, I don't think we should even pursue this, because it really doesn't matter. Because here we are doing a reorganization meeting in April. So what matters is that we get our business done tonight. It really doesn't matter whether our terms expired in December or January. Honestly.
Well, it does, because you have three available spots.
Right,
Since your
yeah.
terms expired in 2016.
Yeah,
But-
but they're expired, so it's,
There's a dispute as to when the terms expired, because prior to the annual report, which this board has not approved, our terms for every trustee always expired in the year of the reorganizational meeting. It didn't matter which trustee it was. So this is the very first time ever, and we have documentation from the director to back this up, that DLD changed the terms to end in December of 2017 before the reorganizational meeting could take place.
Yes, you're right, and that was one of the things that DLD brought up, that was an anomaly in the way you had been acting, and they suggested that you change that to January, but your terms were January 1st to December 31st. That's what your bylaw stated, and it's covered anyways because your bylaws also make the point that you are not replaced, you remain on the board until you are re-elected or replaced. So arguably, it doesn't matter when your term actually came to an end.
It doesn't.
What we do know is they came to an end. Whether it was December or January is a moot point, because here we are, as you pointed out, we're in April. So the point is that there are 3 positions that terminated, and there's therefore three vacancies. The 3 people that are currently sitting in those positions are eligible to be elected, and now 3 other nominations have been put on the floor, and if that's the way it stays, then there will be an election, and 3 of the 6 people will be elected.
I will note, I have only been on the board for 10 years, but there are people have been on the board far longer than I, and mostly everybody.
In the past, they just accepted the position. This is the very first time you're changing that. Did that went on even before, am I wrong?
It was before all of us.
Right,
You know
I
what?
think it goes
It's
back to the
really a
90s.
mood issue. This is April. Can we move on?
It's not that
Let's
there's a
move on.
change. No one ever ran against anyone, so you just roll it
No.
over. But this time, you have people who want to
No,
run.
I think that's
That's not
talking about marijuana.
If I may call the question, may I see by a show of hands, all those who want to vote for Charles Levasseur?
I don't know that that was seconded, so
I'll
that's...
second that. I'll second the nomination for Charlie. Could I also have the nominations reread back, please? Who are the 3 that were nominated?
Charles Levasseur, Jack Atkins, Donna Deming, Denise Harris, myself, and Paulette Brown.
Thank you.
So beginning with Charles Levasseur, show of hands.
Wait, what is
Wait a minute, our bylaws.
Unless
Is it out of line to nominate myself?
You can nominate yourself. Who said that?
Ann Metaxas. My name's Ann Metaxas.
I'm sorry.
Could
My
you
name's
stand
Ann
up? We can't see.
Metaxas. I've been living here since 1990.
Ann, I'm sorry, could you stand up while I was having trouble?
Sure.
Yeah, because you were sitting directly behind Mr.
Yes.
Upshur, so you were just a
Right.
voice.
I've been living in Monroe since 1990, put 2 children through the school system. I'm a retired teacher myself from Suffern High School, French and Spanish, and I thought maybe my language abilities might make me an asset to the committee work here, and I would like to be more involved in the library as well.
Do we have a second for Ms. Metaxas?
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations from the floor? So, Mr. Atkins, did you want to?
Well, I mean, if all the other candidates are briefly, so people who don't know, I was on the board for a couple of years back in 2010. I'm retired now, or almost retired, but I was a pharmaceutical research executive. I was a director of the Department for Biotech in New Jersey here for a bunch of years, but I've worked a lot of different positions in the New York area. I've worked for New York University and Sloan Kettering, so in a lot of different capacities, but a lot of managerial administrative positions, so that's what I bring to the table. I've been in a lot of meetings, conducted a lot of meetings, taken minutes, all that kind of stuff, so thank you.
Could we also
Thank
hear
you.
from Charlie?
And we already had a second from Mr. Atkins, so by a show of hands, how many?
Wait, they wanted to hear from Charlie.
Is Charlie here?
Yeah, he's right here.
Just outside the room.
I'm Charlie Levasseur. I actually served on the board for about 6 years. about 4 years ago, I resigned, just due to personal things going on with related work. Had been unemployed at the time, but I've worked for little companies like IBM and Disney and KPMG, and now I work for JP Morgan Chase. So I'm in the IT area, so I know a lot about technology. I also happen to know quite a bit about banking and about finance and accounting, just enough to be dangerous. And I have a very logical sense for how boards are supposed to run, because I've been on a bunch of them through my career, my professional career, as well as through college and the different organizations that I served on there. So I'd like to throw my name in the ring if you guys will have me. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Anyone else? No? Okay, so, by,
We have in our bylaws, it says by secret ballot, so I would make a suggestion that we list
all
all the
seven?
people from the floor and the three of us on a paper, and they give them out, and everybody vote for three.
How can you do that with Liz?
The bylaws
Well-
are strange. When you said that, I read the bylaws, and the bylaws only refer to a secret ballot in relation to a vacancy. Now, that's not to say that it may not apply broader, but when I looked it up, the only reference to secret ballot is to replace an existing vacancy. Again, how you interpret that is up to you.
I actually pulled the bylaws off of your website. I didn't see the secret ballot section on it.
Okay, hang on, I just did that and I did a search. That's the advantage of
So
machines.
theoretically, there are 3 vacancies.
Correct.
So,
Well, no, there aren't.
I was gonna, yeah,
Well, yeah.
regardless of, is anyone opposed
We're
to
talking
listing
about the
all
vacancies that it's referred to in the
seven?
bylaws is midterm vacancies, not annual meeting vacancies, as I read it. Hang on, let me just open it up here because I had it marked. And, I'm sure
Well, I think it might be quickest if we did paper ballots, which is how we
And list the 7
historically.
names, and then each person pick up to 3 people.
in as much as
How would I
it's
be
called
voting?
for in that situation is.
Yeah,
Let's just write down.
One of the suggestions was that
Usually it's
we
when-
would
when
show
the
you a
non-citizens
paper
do it,
ballot
it's,
and exit from the room, or just ensure your privacy to,
Now, why can't we just do a show of hands?
well, I'm fine personally with that, but that's not how we've historically elected trustees or officers.
Robert, what's the situation on the open meeting laws and voting? Because I know in most cases, isn't it necessary to have a show of hands rather than a secret ballot?
It depends. I mean, in public elections, there are obviously secret ballots, but generally association libraries don't have secret ballots. They just have an annual meeting at which there's a show of hands, or at least that's the way most of the association libraries within RCLS operate, except for those that actually go to a public vote on a municipal ballot or a school district ballot, which is different, because then they're voting on the budget, but you guys go for a budget vote. Many of the association libraries that go for a budget vote also put their trustees on in the same referendum. So you're electing trustees publicly and you're voting on your budget at the same time. But let me,
If I can also, I see only in the bylaws parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. I don't see the, if you
yeah,
find the
hang on,
secret
that's what
ballot
I'm trying to
section.
do right now.
Because if it doesn't state secret ballot, and Robert's Rules of Order generally are typically show of hands or yays or nays.
Okay, the only
which
reference
makes sense
to
because of the
a
Skype
secret
issue.
ballot
Yeah, it's in
is
section 5.
in section 5, vacant trustee position. If a trustee position becomes vacant, the vacancy will be immediately posted. So this is a vacancy that's midterm, not, as I read it, not annual meeting. Because right now, according to your bylaws, there is no vacancy. There are 3 people who remain in their terms have come to an end, but until they are re-elected or replaced, there is no vacancy. So that's how I read this. So it's in section 5, and it's the last sentence in section 5.
Okay, I'd like to make sure that I have all the names from the people on the floor that are running. Donna Deming, Charlie Levasseur, Jack Atkins, and Ann Metaxas. I can't hear.
Yes.
Okay, that's just 4 from the floor. Okay. Okay, then if we want to do a show of hands, I'm fine. Let's just move on though.
Okay, so, do you wanna go?
Okay. Okay, let me see. Now, remember trustees, you can only vote for up to 3, okay? A show of hands for Donna Deming. I don't know if I am looking over here. 2, 3, 4.
No.
Liz has her hand up. Not everybody voted.
Liz is voting.
You can only vote for 3 people. You can't vote for everybody. Who's hands?
Liz.
Yeah, Liz has her hand.
Okay, so that is 6.
No.
Okay, can we show it again, please?
Why is she voting?
Okay, show of hands again for Donna. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Liz, did you get Liz?
Yes, I got Liz.
Did he get you?
Okay, a show of hands for Charles Leveson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And Liz?
Liz?
Her hands up.
6. A show of hands for Jack Atkins.
I have no idea.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you're
And
finished.
Liz.
5. Okay. Ann Metaxas. Show of hands for Ann Metaxas. 1. Liz?
Did you vote for 3 people already, or you didn't?
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah.
See,
You can.
That's my third.
Oh.
That's my
Well, in
third.
fact, I mean, in fact, you can vote as many times as you want. To be quite honest, I don't know why you're eliminating people from voting. People can vote for multiple candidates.
There's 3 vacancies.
There's 3 vacancies. They can only vote for 3 people,
That's what
3
you do when you go to the
times.
Board of Regents.
3 vacancies, 3 votes, that's it. I'm sorry, how many for Ann Metaxas again? 1. Okay. Kathy Demos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Denise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, what we have to do, I believe, is take the 3 people that receive 6 votes and have another vote. No? Yes? What?
No, they just.
3 people, only 3 people receive 6 votes?
Yes, Charles Leveser, Kathy, me, and Denise. I'm
Well, those
sorry.
3 people would be elected then.
No, there's
4 people with 6 votes.
4 people with 6
Yes.
votes. So
Do we vote
Then I
again?
think you'd have to have a runoff with the 4 people.
Okay. Donna, I'm sorry. Jack, I'm sorry. Ann, I'm sorry. Okay, so now we're gonna start again.
Can we have a recount on this, especially for the candidates? I think there was some confusion there.
Why?
Well, because I don't think that the new members of the board, I'm not sure that they all voted.
Well, I know these 2 voted.
How many,
That's all I
how
can
many
vouch
people
for.
are,
What's the?
12. There's 12 people.
Okay. Did we read them in the order of when they were nominated? I think that's the way it
Yes,
should go.
I wrote down Donna,
So the first one that
Charles.
was nominated was Jack Atkins. All right, then the second one, I think, was Donna Deming. And
Does
then
that
the
have to
third one
be-
was Charlie, and then the fourth
Okay,
one was...
I make a motion, we move on with the 4 people that received 6 votes. Do I have a second?
I
Thank you.
make a motion that we start over.
I'll second that.
I can't figure out what just happened.
What's the total number of votes that are down there? Add up the total number you have. It should be 36, correct?
I've got 34. You're right, it should be 36.
It should be 36. If it's not 36, then you don't have an accurate
And
count.
I have 35.
So I'm starting over like this.
So if it's 36, we wouldn't have to.
34, 35, 35.
Okay.
You want to start again? Fine, start again. What order do you want them in, Ms. Pat? What order do you want them in?
It should be
They were nominated.
to be
So Jack
unbiased.
is first.
Theoretically.
Jack.
Well, one suggestion was it be done alphabetically.
Then it's unbiased.
Can we vote for as many?
Just one.
Well, I've been told you can only vote for three.
There's three.
There's three
Stay with
vacancies.
Look, I'm doing it in the order they were brought to the floor. Who was after Jack? Don. Then Charlie, Levasseur, then who else? And the taxes. Oh wait, that was the whole thing we're doing again. Okay. Kathy. All right. And Denise, okay. Again, you can vote up to 3 times, because there's 3 vacancies. How many votes for Jack Atkins? 1, 2, 3, 4. Liz?
Terry.
Yes.
I counted Terry. 1, 2, 3, 4. She have her hand up 5.
Somebody here in the back.
No, you have to be on the board.
Well, it's 6 if Terry voted for Jack.
No, it's 5. I got her. I got her.
1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 6 for Jack Atkins.
Okay, Donna Deming.
Oh, maybe since I only had one vote, I should withdraw? Is that logical? No?
No, you can stay. We're doing, they want to do it all over. Donna Deming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does Liz, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do.
Charlie Levasseur. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the taxes. Kathy.
You shouldn't be allowed to change your vote.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Denise. 6. Okay, so now we're gonna, we have 6 sixes, and we have 1 0.
Has to be a runoff of this, of the people that all have 6 votes.
Which is everybody.
Well,
Which is everybody but 1 person.
She didn't have any votes, so.
Shouldn't have any votes, there's none to allocate.
You were my favorite.
It's gonna come out this morning.
One of the issues that DLD pointed out is having an even number of board members. This is an endemic problem to any board that has.
So I believe legally that the 3 members stay in their position.
No, that's not.
Let's try it.
Before we go
We're waiting for
Another
legal
method to
opinion.
have a runoff.
What?
Before we go any further, I have a statement I'd like to read.
I don't think that that's appropriate.
It's
in the
not,
middle
we're
of
trying
election.
to vote right now. Let's stick to
Well,
this
we're in
issue.
the middle of voting.
Yes, we are.
We're in the middle of voting. At this point, it's even. We have stasis. We can't move one way or the other. So I have a statement that I want to read. I think the public and the new board members should know this library is bleeding money on legal fees. As a taxpayer, I am very concerned about the amount of money this board is laying out for legal services. In 2015, this board spent $51,663 of the Monroe Free Library's budget on legal expenses. In 2016, this board spent $19,200.85 on legal expenses. So far, in 2017, less than 4 months into the year, it has already spent $11,610 on legal expenses. While some of this was necessary because of union contract negotiations, most was done without full board approval, as I, a board member, was never asked to approve most of these expenditures. The exception was in 2016 when Ms. Demos wanted to contract with the law firm of Thomas, Drohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Mail for $17,500 for the year. I am in record as voting against it. At the time, it was deemed a bargain since it reduced the hourly fee from $200 an hour to $175. A comment was made that because I voted against the contract, the board would be charged the $200 per hour fee. My response was that then the time had better be used judiciously. Instead, $19,200 of taxpayers' money was expended for legal advice in 2016. $1,700 above the $17,500 figure, so I guess it's my fault we had to overpay. While not denying the need for legal counsel, I consider these amounts to be excessive. As a taxpayer, a board member, and a librarian, I am outraged that my tax dollars are being used in this manner. This is money that could and should have been used for children's and adult programming, new materials, new technology, and other resources. In 3 years, $82,474 of taxpayers' money has been handed over to lawyers. As I stated, this was mostly done without full board approval, apparently in executive committee sessions, which means the president and at least 2 other officers, which meetings, according to our own library bylaws, are only supposed to be held in an emergency. This was done under the leadership of Ms. Demos and Ms. Brown, both of whom are up for re-election to the board. It is my opinion that considering the extraordinary amounts expended for legal advice under their leadership, the new blood is needed on the board so we can change the direction in which this board has been going.
Can I just say, it would really be shameful if we can't change this. I mean, in light of this information, these 3 board members staying on this board, that's not fair to the public. It's really not fair. We've got to get new people in there.
If this is true, let the members resign and let it go at that and put in new people.
Resign.
Resign!
We've only done things with a vote of the majority of the board. And there are people that have left the board and who were in the majority and voted on these issues.
You know, I just read the mission statement as a new trustee, and it says that we're supposed to be doing this for the benefit of the residents of Monroe.
Well, what do you
That
think,
doesn't
we're pocketing
sound
the
like-
money? You think
that
we're pocketing
doesn't-
the money?
Did I say that? I never accused you of pocketing
Well,
money.
you
It
have
just
only
seems
done
excessive.
things with the majority of the board vote.
That's not what I just
That
heard.
doesn't make it
Well,
right,
that's
though.
her opinion.
Well, it doesn't sound
It's
like
totally her
that.
opinion, and a lot of these legal fees were for things that you started, and we had to go out and check them.
Like
last
what?
year.
That's
Last year, when you started,
That's right.
and you spent the 2 winters in Florida, and from Florida, you
What does
gave us
that got to
trouble
do
that we
with
had to
anything?
go to Scottish and meetings
We
last.
shouldn't talk like that.
Here's what I started last year, people. I was told on good authority, members of the RCLS board, that you couldn't do business unless you had a quorum of 7 when you're supposed to have 12 people on the board. Now, whether or not you have 12 people seated, you are supposed to have a quorum that represents 12 members, correct, Robert? I checked this with the director of the Committee on Open Government for New York State. His advice, his ruling was not accepted by this
May I
board.
just mention to you, we were trying to fix this at Robert Hutch's suggestion last year, to temporarily drop the number to 9, and then we would come back to 12, and you refused it, because that was when we wanted to put Elizabeth on the board last year. And we
And the
needed
reason
7 because you refused it.
Yes, exactly. I refused it because I did not want the power of this board in the hands of a few people. And the money that's been expended on legal advice is a perfect example of why it should not be reduced to 12.
Can we hear from the lawyer?
Being in the hands of few people.
Can we hear from the
You know,
lawyer?
Allow me.
If I could just make, there's, as people on the board know, there's been litigation, there's been first union contract. I think it is important to keep, to have your fees and your expenses go back toward the library, and it may be a good idea to talk about the protocol for referring something to our office or to any other attorney you might have, so that perhaps the whole board votes on, do we want to have an attorney for this?
Right.
So there's a protocol so that when attorneys get a call, we know that it's, something that the whole board
Look,
is in favor
as
of.
a member of there's obviously a lack of confidence, the public in the board. I think people may have meant not anything illegal, they made a mistake, but it's time to clean out. It's dysfunctional, it's time to move on and set a new agenda. She's right, but
Yes, yes, yes.
you can't have it the way it is now. It's just like the government, it's dysfunctional. Resign, run again if you want, but resign and get back into it if you want to, but it's not working the way it is now as I see it in
In
the
the
book.
past few years, numerous times, not one or two or three, numerous times, we have asked the people of public people, please join the board. You were one of them, we invited you to join the board, not a single one volunteer.
Yeah, but they're doing
Why
it
ask
now,
the
they're
other
doing it
one?
now.
I am talking, I have the floor.
We have Liz, and
Please
you-
follow the protocol, I have the floor.
Excuse me, you're
I have the floor, you're out of order.
She was
You're out of order.
Keep talking, Ramos.
But it's
We have numerous times requested people to join,
They're doing it
nobody
now.
joined, and you were one of them, that you refused to join.
No, I told you
Okay,
I had a...
and then we have board members that spend, the volunteer work that we are doing constantly on the job, we are trying to save the tax dollar at the same time maintaining fairness. At the same time, a few of the trustees missing meetings 3 at a time, 3 times,
How
and
many
you
people
spend
do you
time.
ask to
You
join
are
the
out of
board?
order.
3?
You are out of
Your
order.
neighbors?
You are out of order.
You never went-
You are
no,
out of
no,
order. You are
None of
out
you
of
have ever
order.
went-
You are out of order.
Nobody
You are
has
out
ever
of
gone
order.
out to find
You
out
are out
if
of order.
who in this town
You
would
are
like
out
to
of
be
order.
Okay,
You are out of order.
Resign,
You are out of order.
resign,
Out of order.
She has to
Is she resigning?
She resigned.
She said she was saying nothing.
She just said she
Now,
resigned. She has to
now,
resign.
with
She
this
has to
process that we are asked, we are doing our work every time with the meeting, taking care of the notes, arranging the process to withdraw and save money. And in litigation society, of course, we need an attorney. And the board member, like yourself, that constantly are refusing to join and spending time outside the town, and every time you're here, you're throwing hurdles on the way and keep insulting other members of the board just because you are a librarian doesn't give you the right to start harassing and insulting and bullshitting.
Here's the situation.
The situation is you're destructive to the board. That is what you are.
No, I don't think so. Okay, I'd like to say something. When I first joined the board, I spoke to Marilyn and I asked why we didn't have civil service. 2 years ago, and she said because civil service would pick the top 3 people on the list, and that's who she would have to hire. We brought this up again for the last 2 years because the community wanted us to become a public library. And the majority of the board agreed we wanted to go public. We wanted to become a public.
All the board had to do.
Wait, can I finish? No. We wanted to go public, change our charter. You could vote for the board members and everything, but your director did not want to go public because she did not want civil service employees. She wanted to be able to interview. Because we listened to her input. We took her input. She didn't want to go public.
That is untrue.
Oh, it is not untrue. That'll get you, Madeline. That'll get
We
you.
all just take a
It's
deep
not
breath.
true. It is.
Everybody
Well,
just take
let
a
me
nice
say,
deep
I think
breath.
the board
One
members can
second,
try.
one second.
Hang on.
Let's just relax, please, everyone. Just drop it down a
Stop
notch.
bullying, that is the bottom line.
Please.
Stop bullying, we don't
Okay,
stand for it.
let's talk nice to each other because we're the community. This is a library.
Yes.
You think I'm coming from
Let's
Mars?
relax.
I live in this town for 34 years.
And we're glad that you do.
Please, just everyone relax.
I'm paying the same taxes as everybody else does. I don't want to see my tax dollars wasted.
That's right, I know, but
I
let's
put
just
my
be
volunteer
quiet.
time and work
Excuse me,
certain amount of
Kathy,
time.
Sandy said to tell you she's resigning.
Who is?
Sandy Kelton.
All right, let's revote now.
Now we need another nomination.
Do it in retrospect.
No, but just say,
We don't need another nomination. We have 6 people, we have 5 people with 6 votes.
And then now there are 4 positions.
Yeah, there's 6 people with 6 votes.
Yeah, and there's
for
4
positions.
positions now if somebody has resigned.
Isn't it a more formal process?
I did want to point out that the legal fees that this library pays are very high. We have libraries in our system that have multi-million-dollar budgets that do not spend as much as this library does on legal fees.
And I'm sure
You
they
are
don't
fully
have one,
aware that we were forced to
sure
the
they
issue
don't have one
thanks
board
to one of our
member
trustees.
fighting everything.
Look, I'm not trying to start an argument here, I'm just giving you a statement of fact. We have 47 libraries, and I understand that you had contract negotiations, I get that, and that was your first union contract. so I
Somebody is
can see your-
speaking, one person at a time, please. Robert
But
has
there
not
have,
speaking.
but I'm just telling you that proportionally speaking, the amount of money spent on legal fees by this library, by this institution, is quite a bit higher than any of the libraries in RCLS.
Mr. Archer, please don't imply that we do it on choice.
I'm
We
not-
are forced to do
I'm
it.
not-
That's what you're implying.
Okay.
We have spent that much money that we have the collection.
No,
Just
no,
revote. I would like to
What were the
read.
costs associated with the institution of the union if we took those monies out? I'd be just curious of that 51,000. How much was associated with the initial
The bulk of the attorney's fees were for the union.
union? Exactly, okay, exactly. So, exactly.
And in addition, as you very well know, and we appreciate the efforts that you tried to undertake with the town, we spent almost $10,000 in legal fees to force the town of Monroe to hold a special election
Right.
because the town of Monroe failed to timely submit our referendum to the Board of Elections. In fact, when they knew that the deadline for submission to the Board of Elections was on a particular day at 5 p.m., they did not, until 9 p.m. that same night, even pass a resolution to try to present the budget referendum to the Board of Elections, which naturally, the next day, the Board of Elections rejected because it was untimely. So that meant that the taxpayers had zero input unless there was a Article 78 proceeding to compel the town of Monroe to hold a special election. And at the same time that the town of Monroe failed to timely submit our referendum to the Board of Elections, other places in the county also failed to timely submit their referendums, including Tuxedo as one. And we had a choice and we had a vote. We could have voted to do nothing, which would have left the prior year's budget status quo, or we had a choice to bring the Article 78 proceeding in the hope to be able to get a budget increase of $30,000. When that referendum was presented in the special election, it was overwhelmingly passed by the taxpayers in the library service area who could vote. So, yes, it cost us $10,000 to get an additional $30,000,
yeah.
but the option was spending $10,000, not spending $10,000, and getting no increase in our funding. So again,
how much was spent on the union?
the union was the bulk of
the legal fees?
As the union rep, I would just like to say, and we have our rep right here, our union rep right here, that
as far as the staff is concerned, the staff only wanted what we had. It was this board and their vitriol for the staff for going to the union. That's why it took 18 months to come to a contract where we almost went on strike. So let's be clear about that. It wasn't the staff, it was this board.
So, thank you.
Can we revote?
You know, first of all, it was less than 18 months, and if the position was the status quo from the start, we would have had an agreement right away, but the positions were not, and perhaps asking for more was a way to get leverage, and we ended up meeting in the middle, but it did take a protracted amount of dates to reach agreement. I mean, we were able to reach agreement, and there's been, you know, the contract expires this year. And as long as you're not reinventing the wheel, and there's only minor changes to the contract, there should not be that kind of expense again.
That's why this board wants to stay on, to hurt the staff.
But now you have an odd number of people present, so I would suggest trying this election again. Since there's not, Sandra's not here, and you may have your 4 positions.
Before we take any revotes, can I ask if the corresponding secretary or the vice president or anybody is willing to?
I'm not willing. I'm not willing because
Willing to
disturbing
what?
to us.
Wait, Barbara, let her finish the sentence. Willing to what?
Willing to take the minutes tonight.
Because our recording secretary left.
Yeah.
Well, it's being recorded, isn't it? So somebody can take the minutes from the recording.
Is there anyone?
Don't rely on that.
No,
It's not a legal recording,
Volunteer to take the minutes?
as far as being an accurate record of what's going on.
It's not
You should have
official.
somebody take notes. I mean, that's,
Yeah, you can use it as a backup.
yeah, it's here, but
It's the secondary.
I might get mugged on
I have to listen to
I'm sorry, sir.
I was just saying that generally a recording is considered a secondary piece. I mean, most institutions don't use their paper copy of their notes or minutes primarily, and they follow up with audio, and most libraries then destroy the audio once the minutes have been done. But that's just practice. There's no legal requirement to do that.
And this isn't a library recording.
Right.
It's a private citizen.
private citizen.
Summary of what the discussions are. So it's the motion.
Yeah.
Oh, the
It's fun.
motion, yes, sir.
So where are we?
Are we voting again? So now everybody can vote up to 4 times, because there's 4 openings. Jack Atkins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
What
What about the lady on the
And
computer?
that's 8. Donna Deming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Liz, 6. Charles Levison. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kathy Demos.
You skipped Ann. No, she's
She's dropped out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And behind you.
Okay.
Oh, 6. Okay. I'm sorry. Me.
And you.
What about the lady on the
Kathy,
computer?
did you vote for Kathy too, or you didn't?
Yeah, she counted
Did you count
herself.
yourself? Okay.
Count the lady on the computer?
Oh, I didn't count my, can we do Kathy again, please?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm busy keeping a record.
Yeah.
Right, Kathy,
This
okay.
is Kathy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I think that Casey did, Kathy.
I was
You changed
confused
your
about what
mind?
was going on, yeah.
No, so it's 5.
5, okay. Paulette. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Denise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have 3 6s and 2 5s.
And a seven.
Sometimes it's a 7.
I'm sorry, we have 1 8, so Jack, you're in. And we have 3 6s, so that's it. So Donna Deming, Charles Levasseur, and Denise.
I thought Charlie had six.
He did have six.
He did have six. She said
He did have
six.
six.
He is. She said, Jack, Donna, Charlie, and Denise.
Oh, that's right, you said it was, 4.
Right.
Got it.
Now we still have an open position on the board.
No.
That was 4. That's 4.
Denise is still on.
Charlie, Donna, and Jack.
Bye-bye, have a nice day.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
4 left.
So at this point, the new trustees should take their seats at the table.
And do we thank the old trustees? Could we take a moment just to be in gratitude for the service that they have? Board.
I decline. Thank you.
And I will be happy to give my working agendas for the regular April meeting to whomever is elected as the president.
When is that election? Tonight, next, right now. Oh, yeah, right now.
So right now, you should go into the selecting the executive. I mean, that's all.
The officers, to select the officers.
Well, you nominate me, I'm chair, I'm not in it.
I nominate Pat Shanley.
That's
If I might just say one thing before you have your officer election, I think it would do this board a great deal of good if you just moved on. I understand there have been things that went on in the past. Nobody can fix the past, but what we can do is fix the future. We can make sure that the future operates on behalf of the community and in a collegial manner with the board, and that at the end of the day the library benefits from that. But hashing out old wounds, and I have no doubt that there are many, is not productive. I think what the board has to do is move on and just decide to move on and start from today forward, because that you can control. Nobody has control over the past.
We're gonna move on right now, because we're gonna do the election.
I would like to nominate Pat Shanley as president.
I second it. Can you say all in favor?
No, well, there could be other nominations.
Are there any other nominations?
I'll also nominate Charlie as vice president.
I'll second that.
Now, do we have voting?
Yep.
Yes,
We do.
all of you, all 12 of you are able to vote.
right now, or are we doing?
And then my other question was, just so everybody understands, what officers are we electing here? The president, vice president?
Recording secretary, corresponding secretary, and treasurer.
And once you elect the president can then preside over the meeting for the remainder of the rest.
And then my other question is somebody taking minutes? Is somebody writing this down? At this point.
We should elect the secretary first.
Well, somebody should be writing it down.
Well, I think it's a good suggestion Laura made. I think you should treat each position positions separately, and rather than doing it all at once, so if you've nominated someone for president, then if there's another nomination for president, go through that, elect the president, then the president can actually take their seat as president and begin to run the meeting from that point forward.
Okay, so we're back to Pat Shanley then,
And unless there's other nominations.
unless there are other nominations for president.
And it's been seconded.
It's been seconded.
Who seconded it?
Somebody over here.
I think you did.
Did you, Anne Marie?
Anne Marie, I did,
Yeah, there were a couple that
Just
seconded.
Okay, Terry made the motion?
Yeah.
It was seconded by Anne Marie. Sure.
Any other nominations? So do we vote on it?
Call the question.
Call the question. All in favor of Pat Shanley as president?
Did Paulette step away for a moment?
She left. She's voted
Why
out.
she left?
Because she's not on the
She
board.
wasn't, she's not.
Paulette, I thought was on the board, I thought just Kathy, but no?
No.
Paulette is
Paulette
not on the
also.
board either? Oh.
So
Well.
all in favor?
All in favor of Pat as president? Can somebody count please? 8.
What about,
And Liz.
And
Nine.
Liz is 10. 10, because of Liz.
10.
so Pat, it's your meeting.
It's my meeting.
It's your meeting, Pat.
Unaccustomed as I am, to public speaking. Yeah. I haven't been in a position like this in a while, so please bear with me. Marilyn is just suggesting that we go for secretary next. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer for a secretary position, recording or corresponding? Didn't we combine them into one office?
They were 2 offices.
There were 2 offices. Then how come we have so many bills for people writing letters? Okay, Terry, would you be interested? Diane, would you be interested?
Maybe corresponding.
Corresponding, all right.
What's the difference between the two?
Recording is the one that takes the minutes.
Oh, I'm terrible at that.
Okay.
I'm terrible.
Anne Marie?
Can it take recording?
No? Yes?
Okay.
Okay. Who seconded it?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Seconded it?
Casey did. Okay, so, that's for the recording secretary. All in favor? Anne Marie? How many have we got?
I think it's unanimous. It's unanimous.
Unanimous, okay.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
And
Made eye contact with the wrong person.
yeah,
So from here on out, you got it.
Diane is going to be corresponding secretary. Can we have a second on that? Okay. Casey?
Now, since you actually have a recording secretary, and since there's only one nomination, you could ask the secretary to cast the ballot. You don't have to have a vote,
Okay.
unless there's a second nomination.
Is there a second
You didn't
nomination?
have that before until you had the recording
Okay.
secretary.
So
That's
what
Robert's
am I-
Rules of Orders.
You cast one vote for Diane to be
There you go.
recording secretary and treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Casey for treasurer.
Okay.
I will accept.
I'll second that.
Anybody else want up for treasurer? Okay.
Who seconded that?
Denise.
Harris. Thank you.
Okay, and you can vote, cast one vote. Anne Marie? So Casey's the new secretary?
No, treasurer.
Treasurer, I'm sorry.
I was like, what did you sign me up for?
We wouldn't do that to you.
You're also the new custodian.
That's fine, I'll do it again, it's not a problem.
I'm the assistant custodian.
Okay, now we
I'm a good
have
boss, don't worry.
a slate of officers.
No, vice president.
You guys
Oh, we didn't
bypassed me.
vote for vice. Okay, I'm sorry, Charlie, I didn't mean to
I'm going to
overlook you.
nominate Charlie again for vice president.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. All those, Anne Marie's casting one vote for Charlie?
Yeah.
Unless there's.
Wait, wait, wait a
I wanna
minute.
nominate Jack.
Huh?
I wanna nominate him.
Okay, Jack,
The nomination.
I'll second it.
okay,
All
right. Who seconded it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Barbara did.
Barbara.
Wait, for treasurer or for?
Okay.
Vice
Vice president.
Who nominated Charlie first?
That's amazing.
Terry Schomer.
Terry, thank you.
Okay,
Who seconded?
Barbara.
No, who
No.
seconded Charlie?
Casey.
Oh, Casey.
Okay, all those in favor of Charlie?
Do I get to vote?
Yeah,
And then, and the other question is, do I get
Voting
it?
against yourself?
I understand that.
How about Liz? Liz?
Yeah, Liz said Charlie.
You voting for Charlie, okay? How many for Jack?
Thank you.
Three. All right.
Thank you for your vote.
So we have a full slate of officers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now I know there's several things. I know there's several things that we have to accomplish tonight that are imperative, from what I understand. Where's the? Yeah. So, the next thing on the agenda is the annual summary reports of standing committees, but I don't think there's been much work done in the standing
There's
committees.
a lot of work done.
And there are many reports.
If you want to give a report,
I'll
Barbara,
give a
please
report, I
feel
have two
free.
reports, yes.
Okay, go for it. Which committee are you reporting on?
The two committees that I was chairperson for.
Okay.
Was library operating and audit.
Library operating and which else?
Audit. Audit.
Thank you.
Shall I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
The entire year of 2016 proved to be a huge challenge for the Library Operating Committee. Due to the board being reduced to 7 trustees, the challenges just kept evolving. It soon became apparent that both a quorum and a majority required all 7 trustees to not only be present to have a board meeting, but to vote unanimously for all motions. As a result, although 5 or 6 of us attended many meetings, the full Board of Trustees was only able to have 5 official board meetings. Many important and urgent matters were approved and/or questioned by the Executive Committee so that the library could continue to function and move forward in a timely manner. Our president worked 40-plus hours a week to ensure that nothing fell between the cracks. On March 3rd, 2016, the EC, together with our attorney, attended a conference call meeting at the Ramapo Catskill Library System, our RCLS headquarters, with Mr. Huckster. The call included the New York State Division of Library Development to try to solve the many issues the trustees were experiencing due to the quorum requirements. At the time, they were unable to offer immediate help. There was a follow-up conference call meeting again in August. The Board of Regents plans to place MFL on their agenda to help the board, which they've done. The collective bargaining agreement between CWA and MFL was finally completed and signed by all in January 2016. The Library Operating Committee proposed to give the library management team all of their holiday accruals with the stipulation that all must be used by 12/31/2016. The board has had to address the extremely disrespectful conduct of one of the library's employees, directed more than once to board members during board meetings. These concerns were discussed with management. On July 11, 2016, MFL's director submitted her working copy, the first draft, of the proposed 2017 budget. This draft did not include figures for projected salaries or payroll taxes. Therefore, a projection for 2017 taxpayer support could not be coordinated and finalized in time to submit a referendum to the 2016 budget. In order to expedite a fair budget for 2017, a motion was made and unanimously approved during the November 2016 board meeting to use the updated revised 2016 budget for the proposed budget for 2017. In 2015, it was discovered that AFLAC contributions by MFL had an abundance of inconsistencies revealed. In order to correct findings, board approval made to distribute overpayment checks to the employees that had overpaid their share of premiums. Board approved a payment plan for those that had underpaid their premiums. It has since been revealed that not all the payment plans were actually adhered to, and a payment plan was then set up for that person afterwards. The Library Operating Committee and the EC initiated a salary adjustment for a management employee, which was ratified during an executive session in June 29, 2016 meeting. The 2016 evaluation form for the MFL's director was distributed to all trustees during a meeting of August 8, 2016. The compilation document with the input of all trustees was submitted to the director during a later meeting. The Library Operating Committee met with the library director to update, revise, and rewrite the user behavior policy, the tutoring policy, no smoking policy, and unattended children policy. All were eventually approved. Respectfully submitted by Barbara Zerna, Library Operating Committee Chair.
Thank you, Barbara.
And then for the audit, for 2015 audit, the library officially contracted with Barad and Donnelly and Associates, with Donnelly's agreement to assign Joanne Arendez from her office to do all the MFL field work. The annual report was prepared to submit to RCLS and the state as required. June 21st, 2016, Donnelly informed the EC and the audit committees that she and Joanne had began the field work on June 6th for testing and other audit tasks with accounting personnel and met with Director Marilyn McIntosh. The committee thought this as an odd departure from previous years where the auditors met earlier with the audit committee to review the procedure and to discuss any questions. Donnelly provided their immediate timeline and offered to meet with the audit committee in July. Donnelly and Joanne met with the audit committee together with MFL's assistant director and bookkeeper in July. It was discovered that many of the final figures in the budgetary comparison schedule were incorrect. The reason, because the audit draft was based on figures taken from the wrong version of QuickBooks. There were quite a number of suggestions offered by the auditors and by the committee to improve procedures going forward. A primary requirement is that any payroll mistakes must be disclosed immediately. There was one that hadn't been from November till December or January. The auditors in their report noted the difficulties they encountered with the separation of capital and operating funds, resulting in significant additional time to find and reflect the separate funds for both the state report and the financial statements. They also recommended again that neither the director nor the assistant director continue to approve their own invoices. The auditors continued with their recommendations to create a detailed system to monitor and track all approvals for any online bill payments. And finally, they included a checklist for updating policies going forward. The audit committee, together with the executive committee, continued to follow up with the auditor, awaiting the updates and corrections. It was disappointing to once again require extensions for submitting corrected tax returns. Therefore, rather than contracting with Barad for MFL's 2016 audit, the committee sent out RFPs to other accounting firms as noted below. And there's the chart of the accounting firms that we did do, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, that Tom Craven had accepted, and he's going to have Denise do the audit. Am I correct?
Denise
That's what I have on the sheet.
Wilson, yes.
Okay. That's it. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you. Yes.
Could I get a copy of what you just
there
read?
were-
Yes, I see that there's typos on this. I did email it to the EC. I'll email it to you tomorrow so that you can attach it. Because this has
There were
three typos
three
I had to oversee.
annual committee reports that Paulette Brown emailed to the board. One was her building and grounds report. One was her steering committee report. And one was her nominating committee report. I myself have two committee summaries to read, but I believe that the outgoing treasurer has his finance committee annual summary to read as well.
I would just say if we can keep them as brief as possible with no disrespect to our most, just because it's 9:30 already and we have a lot of people sitting here who I'm sure are anxious to get home. We still have a regular board meeting to go through.
actions met, item, your numerical order that I'm going through, met at least once a month with assistant director, to second sign recurring and non-recurring transfers, disbursement of $2,500 or more. Met several times with bookkeeper to ask questions about individual components of certain second sign items such as Amazon and Visa charge bills. Ensured that established bill payment and withdrawal procedure were followed by staff so as to avoid late fees and over-limit charges. Worked with staff and fellow trustees to place all MFF funds into highest earning interest accounts compatible with MFL's budgetary needs, plus and FDIC collateralized limits. Monitored employee payment deductions and salary increases, contract benefits, buyouts throughout the year, only to learn in 12/31/16 email sent on a Saturday at 12:34 p.m. that several employees had either underpaid or overpaid for benefits in 2016. Oversaw repayment by 2 employees for 2015, had underpaid their AFLAC deductions. 1 employee fully paid back the library what was owed. 1 employee will fully pay the library back what it is owed by 12/31/17. Regarding the time management, stress time program was successfully implemented. Met with other committees, staff, bookkeeper to reevaluate 2016 budget throughout the year and ultimately propose an operating budget for 2017. Implemented a payroll period number 27 due to the 18th of end of the year so that salaries paid in 2016 would more exactly conform to the calendar year. Met with other committee staff, bookkeeper to try to procure lower insurance cost quotes from independent insurance broker. Ensure that the $7,700 excess sum paycheck withdrawal erroneously from the trust bill was replenished. And also coordinated for the 2018 budget, proposed budget by the director, which also includes about cashing in $5,000 of library's assets, and also adding...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Was that 50,000, did you say?
5,000.
5,000.
For cashing 5,000 of library's assets, as well as asking the taxpayer to pay additional $45,000 in their taxes for the coming 2018 budget. That's proposed at this time. It has not been discussed and has not been ratified. It's just a proposal.
So it's an overall $45,000 increase to the Monroe taxpayers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was what was proposed, but the actual net assets appropriated, which means liquidating capital reserves, was for $52,000.
Right.
$52,000.
52,000, not 5,000.
No,
Correct.
Just
Right.
No, I understand, yeah.
52,000.
May I ask a question, actually? I know that the 990 extension has already been filed for 2016. Is the same accountant, Stephen Strabinger, going to be completing the 990 and the Chart 500?
No.
He's not. Did he give a
Tom
reason?
Craven of, well, actually Denise Williamson of another company. We had to, preferred not to work with the library.
Did he say why?
He met with Marilyn, and I don't know if he gave her a reason.
He didn't give me a reason. I called him to see if I had said anything that would upset him. He said, no, it had nothing to do with me. So I personally don't know why.
So anyway,
I'll go out to say,
Tom
but I did
Craven
call
of
his office and he didn't
RBT.
get back to me, so,
Casey,
sorry.
RBT, I'll give you this sheet.
But RBT is the
It's
conglomerated
a
firm
combined,
that his
it's a
firm
combined
joined.
merger of Sudor and Company,
Yep.
Roos and Van Cord and it's like,
Yeah, I think it
this
was
is.
Stephen's
So,
company actually merged with
This
them, I
was what we
believe.
went with originally, so he
Yep.
did the annual report. But then Kathy contacted Tom Craven, and he's gonna put Denise Williamson, she was our accountant last year. that
Watch
put
the
us
cord.
together.
Careful.
That is dangerous.
Her name was Denise Williamson, you said?
Denise Williamson.
She lives here in Monroe.
Yes,
She
Kathy?
She used to be our accountant when it was Sudor, and she worked with Maria to organize, right?
And I asked,
So you can work with Maria, and she'll clue you in nicely.
Perfect.
Kathy, you had a comment?
Not about this, but I also wanted to note for the minutes that the outgoing recording secretary had emailed everybody with the motions book, in quotations, of all of the motions that were passed in 2016. That was her annual summary. Mary Duffy had emailed her long-range planning committee summary report. I don't know if there's time for her to read her report, or,
I have copies for everyone if they want.
Yeah,
That would be great, Mary, and maybe at the next board meeting, you can,
do we need to have it approved for this board meeting in order to sign off on the minimum requirements?
At this point, it's not critical because the annual report is fiscal, is calendar year. So at the end of calendar year 2016, you were non-compliant. But the variance doesn't have to be submitted till the fall of 2017, and as long as you come into compliance prior to the variance needing to be submitted to the state, I can write them and say you have come into compliance and a variance will not be required. So it doesn't have to happen this meeting.
A formal submission to your office that will be required? Formal submission, so that way
Well,
you're
it
able
would be
to
good to let me know that it's been approved and it's in the minutes, you know,
Right,
you know, that's it. And
I
then-
just
and then
wanted to make sure the
when
correspondence-
the variance comes up, we will write a letter to the director to say, you know, you have a variance that you require, and the director will write back to me and say, we came into compliance at this and this board meeting because it was approved, and then I can go ahead and tell the state they're in compliance and we don't need to submit it. This is not unusual, it happens with other libraries as well.
yes,
Anne Marie,
Kim.
can I just tell her something? We've started a system a few years back, and that's what Kathy was just mentioning, that whoever is the recording secretary keeps all the motion, you know, like, makes a separate booklet or whatever of the motions that were passed, so that you don't have to go back through all the minutes every year. We used to divide it by committees, like if it was related to finance, and if it was related to nominating or whatever it was. But I think that Sandy this year, this morning, the one that was today, is just by year, or in order. It wasn't separated by committees.
The one that was emailed?
The one that was emailed today. It was just because we had very minimal meetings, I believe there were 5. Am I correct? 5. And so there were 5, she made 5 lists that you can make one book. But in the past, when we had 12 meetings or 14 meetings, and there were so many subjects, we would make it even more fine-tuned. This way it's easier if you have to go back year after year, you know, everything.
If I might suggest, I think it's a good idea to put your motions at the end of each of your minutes. And then you can compile all of that into
In a
an
simpler
annual
release.
one.
Right, that's what we
But that
do.
way, it's much easier for people when the minutes come before you to have all, instead of having to read it at the end, there's a list of the motions that were approved or not
That's even
approved.
better, right.
You know, and then and then you just compile that at the end of the year into an annual
It's also
list.
easier for the public to see when it's on
Exactly.
the website, the
Exactly,
meeting.
because otherwise you have to
Minutes.
read all the text
Yeah.
and, you know, things get lost in
We'll
paragraphs.
do that.
There is something to be voted on tonight, so just, I don't know when you're gonna get there. Later on, okay.
So there were three reports that I had in January before the originally scheduled annual meeting. Asked for the director and for Alex Carver to prepare for the grants, fundraising, specifically the annual fund drive, and public relations. I don't know if those summaries have been drafted.
Well, we're not the chairs of board committees, so, no.
So is the answer no?
The answer is no.
Okay. Madam President, may I read my two committee summaries?
Can you just hand them in, Kathy, because it's 9:45 now?
I can't because I didn't have time to type them.
Well, why don't you type them up and then you can send them and...
I would like to read my executive committee summary. I can certainly prepare the bylaws and submit that, but I would really like to.
Okay, we can...
It's related to the annual meeting.
Yeah, it's no disrespect to you, Kathy, I'm just trying to be conscious of people's time here. So if you can...
I will read very quickly.
Kathy, can I just ask you, whatever you're gonna read, can you email to me? So that I'm not...
I will, once I can type it, but right now, these are for your potential use, but it's a working agenda for the regular meeting with an executive session that's being called for at the beginning of the meeting, and these are the motions that need to be done. So,
Make a motion that we adjourn the annual meeting.
All right, the second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we move into the regular meeting. And I just want to say, I see Liz sitting there in Scotland. Are you still awake, Liz? I think she's in a trance.
She's frozen, I guess.
She's frozen. I think we have a...
There you go.
Are you ready to fall asleep?
She can leave.
We have enough... No, we have enough people for a quorum. We thank you very much for your involvement. Enjoy the rest of your time in Scotland.
Thanks. I'll see you when I get home.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Sleep well.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so now we have to have the call to order of the annual meeting, or the regular meeting, and the Pledge of Allegiance all over again? No, we don't. All right. Please bear with me, people. I haven't run a meeting in a long time, so I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. But, no, I'm not going to talk slowly, please. All right, I'll try to talk slowly, but I'm looking at the time and knowing that people don't want to be here any more than longer than necessary. So, do we have the minutes or not? The minutes were, Sandy passed them out.
This was
The steering committee.
that would be the January meeting?
This is the annual.
I haven't.
it's the November 2016 minutes, but before that, our lawyer had asked for an executive session.
Okay, and then we can, because we're paying the lawyer right now,
I
right?
was just gonna say, the efforts of that.
Let's-
Just the legal piece.
Let's go, sorry it's
taking so long.
That's okay.
I'll let you go home.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm going to address for you is something that needs to be voted on, and it's a resolution of this overpayment issue that Barbara mentioned in her report, for 3 employees.
Do we have to do
There was-
this executive session to
Okay, it's up to,
just leave?
wait a minute, it's up to you if you have an executive session. There's a basis for an executive session because it resulted from collective negotiations with the union. The vote would have to be in the open session. And I'm available to answer legal questions. I passed around a letter to everyone on April 12th. And it also concerns the financial history of 3 employees, so I would suggest an executive session.
Yes, and there's a second personnel salary issue that needs to be addressed in executive session as well.
But you have to vote to go into executive
Okay,
session.
yes.
I make a motion, we go into executive
Okay, one
session.
second.
You should state clearly that the motion is to go into executive session to talk about personnel matters.
All right.
Because the law is very specific about
Let me
what.
amend
And
my,
I think you actually have to say the financial history of a personnel,
Yeah.
as well as collective negotiations.
And may I ask for
what she said.
permission from the board to stay, as I have specific information pertaining to these 2 executive session
Well, I don't know
topics?
whether that would be correct, would it?
No, you're not
No,
part of
it's
the,
not correct since you're not on the
executive
board
board
anymore.
anymore.
Okay, but the board has the ability to invite people to participate in executive session, and I personally don't know how the board can vote on the
That's something that I'm
motions
sure.
if nobody just gives the history.
Well, I think we're capable of making a decision.
So you have to have a vote now.
Yes.
Did somebody move to go into executive session?
Yes.
Seconded?
Seconded.
And then
Who seconded it?
Casey.
Casey seconded it.
I also want to make a motion to let.
Well, you've got one motion on the
There's a
floor.
motion on the floor, it has to be voted on.
And the motion is to go into executive session to
Yes.
discuss
To discuss
Personnel
personnel
and union.
and financial
matters
pertaining to personnel.
You guys should be the secretary.
Terrible at writing things.
I have a cramp.
And we'll make it quick.
I literally have to, I have a doctor's appointment on Wednesday.
I'd like to invite Robert to stay.
Well, you need to have a vote first to go into executive.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
All in favor to go into
All in
executive?
favor of going into executive session? Okay.
How is it unanimous?
No. He didn't vote.
Can everybody vote to go into executive session? So,
Donna.
Whatever they do. So I had the officers come in and do a building review first to see where our vulnerabilities were, and then they came in and did a workshop for the entire staff, which was reported by Alex, and we can't put that out to the public because that's proprietary to them. But twice a year, we're going to, he condensed it into a smaller thing. Twice a year, we're gonna have everybody who's going to have to view that again, because what they said is, when you hear it, it's really up here, and then all of a sudden, boom, your understanding goes down. So we're gonna do that every 6 months.
was that the Orange County Sheriff?
That's the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
You might want to stagger that too, so that you have not all of the employees taking it at the same
They
time.
won't take it all at the same time, they'll
Right.
take it at their leisure.
Yeah,
during the-
so that way, but if you
period
can
of
stagger
time.
the requirements to take it, it makes it better, so that way
Oh, I see
you
what
get
you're saying.
refreshed now, he gets refreshed in 2 weeks or 2 months from now, so that way you always have somebody who's actively up
Right,
here.
right.
Just to play on what you were saying, because I think it's a great idea, when you say requirement, are you gonna create a policy around?
I don't know if, I
people
don't,
go to this?
I just tell them they have to do something.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine, and that's fine, I just didn't know from a risk management perspective, or, you know, if that was
Maybe
a
I should,
consideration.
and we can talk about that.
I think as we go through the new policies and
Yeah,
whatever
absolutely.
committee deals with the
Yeah.
policy enforcement, that might be a component that
I'm
we look
open
at.
to anything.
Yes.
Did they make any further recommendations with the active shooter in order to protect the children that are here for programs?
They said we were actually in pretty good shape. What they said was to leave the key in that door over there because the children are in this area, and if the shooter came in, you'd get them in there right away. If the door's locked, you gotta look for the key, you won't have that option. So
Okay.
that's why we leave the key in that door, and they could get in there and barricade themselves in right away. If it was
windows
coming...
open?
No,
I know what you're saying. Do
Yeah.
these windows open?
They-
They didn't tell you to go out the window?
Nope, they said make the kids go in there. Because
No, current protocol on
Sometimes
active
shooters are on top of
shooters
the
does
building.
not stay.
So you have to
Shield
assess
the
if you
kids,
should
if
leave the
anything,
building
there
or
should
not.
Right.
be blinds to block off the wind.
Right.
With that being the case, would it behoove you to make that a bulletproof door?
Without
They
doing
did
the windows
suggest
as well.
Does that room have windows?
No. No.
That's why they're probably barricading in place there. That's
Right.
what they do down in the city. At JP Morgan Chase, we do that for active shooter.
So right now, if you went in there, it'd be pretty crowded, but normally it's not. We keep it enough open that the children could even do that.
The question then also becomes, would it be worthwhile, instead of having that key, to put up a badge reader so that you're gonna have employees here with them, that you could actually get in there? I mean, the key could be your secondary,
Well, they
but
just suggested keeping the key in the door, just getting in there and
But Charlie may have a good suggestion there, because it's easy enough, especially with kids, for somebody to grab the key and walk away with it, you
You
know?
could put a punch code up.
that's what I'm thinking, either that or a badge swipe or both,
Yeah,
combination,
like on the
whatever.
outside door, it's the easiest, because you can have it on, you just go like that.
Yeah.
Whereas
so keep
with
that in mind, whoever's on building and grounds, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Do our library, because again, I'm new here, but are library personnel required to wear RFID badging while they're on duty?
You mean just regular, what kind of badges?
RFID, the
No.
swipers.
No, we have our fobs on our keychains.
Oh, okay.
No.
And the reason
Yeah,
why
but
I'm
then
asking
the
is
fob
only,
wouldn't be with you if you're using it
that's
to
the
get
reason
out.
why I'm
To
asking,
go there,
because
then you would
if
have
your
to
fob's in
wear
your
it.
purse back in
Right.
the office, then having this door be a fob operated door.
I was
You need to
surprised.
wear the fob.
Right.
The
So-
officers actually said that we were in pretty good shape as far as an active shooter coming in.
Yeah, these are just ideas for
You can
improvement,
always
yeah.
tweak it, and you know
Right.
this,
Oh, there's always, yeah,
there's
it's
always,
yeah.
yeah.
inventing a better mousetrap, that's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree, this is
Okay.
something we can
Yeah.
move on to the grounds
Right.
committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
It had been noted way back when that people were parking, you know, the driveway has two side parking spaces, one is handicapped, one is not. And people were parking on where there's the gravel and making it depressed there. So Paulette, who is not here right now, but she had the idea, and she did all the research, of putting a flag in there. It would serve two purposes. It would prevent people from parking there, and it would be a respectful thing for the library to have an outside flag. And she found a company that would also have a solar lighting at the top, because a flag should be lit in the night. So, you know, I'm sure she would share that. So that was all in my December report.
And you have to have the light if you're going to leave the flag up, otherwise you have
That's
to take
right.
the flag down.
That's it.
by
I
law.
was just
Right,
asking a
that's why
question.
it's a solar thing. That was mentioned. Just, if you don't know,
If it rains over the night, there's no personal duty. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things.
we're filming Real Talk again, Real Talk, REEL Talk.
Oh, they were great.
Yeah, and other people are involved now. Alex is doing some, Gia is doing some, Melissa's doing some, and what we do is we review, if there's a book that goes with the video, we review that. And also we're taking it as an opportunity to tell people about the extras we have, so we're calling it Real Talk, etc. So I might talk about the museum passes in this little talk. So if you haven't seen them, they're on a bar across our website, and if you click through, or sometimes it comes right up, you'll see Real Talk, and then we have our own YouTube channel, and they're all on our YouTube channel. So take a look. I think they're pretty cool. We have two new hires. Bill Bessold, he works at the reference desk, and Lynn Pace, who works at the circulation desk.
Could you spell Bill's name?
B-E-S-O-L-D, Bessold.
B-S-O-L-D, okay.
Yeah, they will come at the next meeting and introduce themselves, but we thought maybe this wasn't a good time for them to do.
No. I'm sorry, what position did Bill?
Bill is on the reference clerk, part-time reference clerk, and Lynn is a part-time circulation clerk.
And what's her last name?
Pace.
P-A-C-E?
Yes, correct. I just mentioned those things I don't have to talk about because they're past. That's past. We got a grant. I wrote a grant last July so that the children, that we have, Turtle Dance Music comes, and it's a program for children on the autistic spectrum. And so I wrote a grant to Greater Hudson Bank. Took a long time to get it, but we did receive $500 from them, which we paid for a couple. I asked for the whole year, but I got 2 months, but I guess that 2 months is better than nothing. And of course, if you, what I'm skipping is all of the fabulous programs that we give, but you can read that for yourself, it'll take me too long. Okay, we've been working for a really long time on online registration for programming. And Alex and Melissa and Joy is a part-time children's person, have been working month upon month to develop this themselves, and they finally have done it. It's going to go live in May.
Great.
And it's a complex program. It's not just online registration, but it has waiting lists. It can tell if you're a Monroe patron or not, because Monroe patrons get first on the list. If somebody says, I can't go, it'll bump the people up automatically, and they'll get notified via email. So we're pretty excited about that.
Marilyn and multiple children in the same family.
Right, yeah. It's a very complex program that they've worked a long time on, so hats off to them.
That's just for children's programming? Or
right now to start.
Just for children?
Then when we see that it's like a well-run machine.
Themselves,
yes,
or they
yes.
You said it was
It's a
Alex and
database,
Joy?
Yeah.
It's very much needed.
Thank you.
It is very much needed, yes. And we've been working on it for a long time. Ian Murphy was working on it, but then when he left, it kind of, stopped a little bit.
Any way to
He went,
maybe
what?
make this something that we could share with other libraries?
Only if they pay for it.
And that's why I'm throwing it out there, because it could actually be something that you, seriously, because it could be something that could benefit other libraries here,
It might.
as well as.
There are commercial programs out there, that's why I asked.
And we looked into the commercial
will
programs, they were kind of
Yeah.
expensive, didn't do exactly what we wanted. I mean, Evanced, we looked into that. But this we did ourselves, and I have fabulous staff, so.
One other brief
We'll
question
take
on it,
advantage of
and if it doesn't already exist, maybe a future iteration
Yes.
possibly. Once the event comes to pass, what happens to that data about who came to the event, who had interest in the event?
I think
Is that
that's,
all
yes, that's all taken into
stored?
account,
Good,
yes.
perfect. I just want to make sure that data was mineable.
Yes.
Build a database.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
So
also
then
gives
that's.
fodder for in the future when we're
You're
going
right.
after these grants, or we're going after to propose,
Right.
expansions
Also,
on
Well, you
budgets.
also
When
need
you
it for your
fundraise.
annual report, because in the annual report that you do for the state, which is a legal requirement, you have to report on the number of programs you had and the number of people who attended those programs. So having
But
some
even
way to
beyond that,
count
who
that.
attended, I want to see who had interest and got turned away, because it gives
Well,
us
in
fodder to
addition.
expand.
Yeah.
It helps fundraising, it helps grant proposals, it helps everything.
But you're just talking about numbers.
Yeah, just numbers.
Yeah.
I'm the numbers guy.
Yeah, and I think it's actually important not to have personal information in there. You don't really need the name of the
That's
person
why I only
after
did the
the
numbers.
event. All you need is accounts. How many came, how many were on the
We
waiting
could put
list.
in, we could put in a disclosure agreement that as they're signing up, if they want their name included to be notified of future events, different story. But again, I agree with you from a personal identifiable information perspective, it does create its own list of liabilities otherwise. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Patron had a suggestion, we have meters, parking meters out front. And so a patron said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a pass just for when we're at the children's program? So I called a number of people, the police chief who told me to call the mayor, who told me to write a letter to the village clerk, which I did, and never heard anything. So I personally went down and she apologized, it got lost in their life. So tomorrow night, they're voting on this pass. It would be a specific thing for a specific time, and only for the time, they would be like a 5-week program. So every Tuesday from whatever to whatever. So I hope they go for it. I thought it was a good suggestion.
So what are they gonna give you,
How many
coins to put in the
passes?
meter?
No, they'd have like a thing to put in the dash of their car.
Oh, I see.
Dashboard pass for a certain date and time, and then if they came around, they'd see that pass.
That's great, because it's always bothered me that there is paid parking in front of the library. It just doesn't seem proper to me.
And for new board members, long ago, we designed a card called We Care What You Think. And sometimes when people have, well, actually, we've got all of them here, a lot of them in your packets. Sometimes people have really good comments, and this was a good one, so I thought, okay, let's go. All right, the Larkin grants. I've been doing that for 2 years. Everything is done. It has been done for months now. It's in the Office of Budget. I can't even talk to Grace Form or DASNY, which is the Dormitory Authority, DASNY, Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. and grant reform, they both kind of have this legislative grant that I had to go back and forth with. They can't even answer my questions now it's with the legislature. As soon as they pass that, I get a form, I fill it out, I send it in, we get our money, $50,000. So,
And
yes.
this was for what? Build construction capital?
It was for the children's, it was for the adult
Yeah, so it's
circulation and
past-
children's
past
circulation,
expenses,
way past, yes.
Well, that's not unusual. I mean, unfortunately, those grants take forever to process.
I was told that sometimes they take 3 years, so I guess 2 years is
You're
a
lucky,
record.
You're lucky,
Yes.
exactly.
And it was for the adult and children's circulation.
Desk, when we were
Desk.
doing our renovation and expansion.
So essentially, it's gonna go back into your capital fund or your fund
Right.
balance.
Yeah, refund it, yeah.
To offset an encumbrance. Sure. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And then you should have a ribbon cutting.
But just on that area.
I was just gonna say, does anyone have a big pair of scissors?
Yes,
to
yeah,
volunteer?
we did, I still have the ribbons from when we had the ribbon.
There we go.
Just take it out and cut them again.
Well, because, I mean, I'm only being half facetious here because, Larkin would appreciate having a photo op.
True.
We had a photo op.
We'll give him another one then.
Tons.
Give him another one, tell him, hey,
Not here, feeling
hey,
well.
Bill, how about you push
His
this
last
through?
photo op.
I've called his office to see if they can push it through, and there's nothing they can do.
No, you gotta invite him over for breakfast.
Yes, right, well,
He's
yeah.
sick right now, so maybe it's a good idea, breakfast.
Well, the other option, if I might suggest, I'm
Chicken
sorry,
soup.
I'll shut up after this, is to have your kids write in letters. Maybe as a program, to have brief
Oh, that's an
notes and put a
idea.
package together.
When we get the money,
Yeah,
yes, that
that's
would
right.
be
No,
nice.
little drawings, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they love that kind of stuff.
Someone write that down. I don't know, I got my paperwork, but not, okay, not my note.
Oh, here's your notepad. Pass it down today.
You're telling me all these things that
We'll
I'm
remind you.
And I'll tell you something. If I don't write it down, it's not gonna happen.
You're in good company.
Yes. Okay. So hold on one second. The next thing I'm gonna read out to you, this is something you have to understand, and I wrote it out a little more completely. Tax cap. People think the tax cap, when it was 2%, they thought, oh, 2%. They thought that's all it was, but it's not. It's a very complex formula of many components, 3 of which affect us. So, and one of them I don't know the answer to until September or October. I'll read out what I said. Before we can put a budget out for a public vote, we need to override the tax cap. The reason for the override is the fact that the tax cap is not a simple number, but a complex equation. One of the components that the Monroe Free Library needs to input into the formula is not given out by the state until sometime in September or October.
When is your budget?
Our budget needs to be submitted to the Monroe Town Clerk at the end of August. By overriding the tax cap, the board eliminates the worry of inadvertently going over the tax cap without intending to. I am providing the language below that is needed to properly override the tax cap. In my report, I have the language. Would you like me to read it?
Not necessarily.
No.
Do you want us to do that tonight? Do we need to do that
Well,
tonight?
you kind of don't have to do it tonight because the budget's not ready. I mean, I submitted a 2018 budget, but it never
You have
went
to do it
anywhere.
prior to the budget being approved.
Right. And I did
Whatever
send the
that might
budget
be.
in, but nothing was done, so, but before we do that, we have to override the tax cap.
And it could be done the same day as you approve the budget, just do the override first, then approve
And then
the
approve the
budget.
When does the budget need to be approved by?
Pardon?
When does the
August.
budget- by
Well,
It
the
has to
thing is, no, our signatures have to be, we need 600 signatures to put our budget on the ballot. We use,
It's complicated because you're going out on petition.
right, we have to go on the election, the general election, our budget is voted on, so we need to get about 600 and something signatures, and that takes time. And so we can't wait till August.
Of course.
So one of the first businesses of this board will be to talk about that budget and what you're gonna do
Now,
with
the
it.
state only puts out the actual tax cap because it's not 2%, it's 2% of the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. And they only put that out 3 to 5 months ahead of your budget deadline, the vote date. And because this is a municipal budget, it's the municipal ballot, so you would not get anything till what, October, September?
September, October.
Maybe August, maybe,
And it changes the number. For instance, last year, when we did not go for a budget increase, all we could have asked for without going over the tax cap was $1,700. Well, to me, that's not worth it. All the time and effort it takes to get 600 signatures, and you're getting $1,600, $1,700, so you're gonna be breaking that tax gap, or we're gonna stagnate, but that's a different conversation for
Well,
another
and-
day.
And just, I think the new people should know, I mean, the only thing you have to do to override the tax cap is you have to get 60% of the board to agree to
Correct.
override the tax cap.
Right.
It's a motion of the board.
Right.
It's unlike the school districts, which have to get the people who vote on their budget, they have to get 60% of the people who vote on their budget. We're treated like municipalities in that, libraries are treated like municipalities, so you need 60% of the board to vote.
We used to vote on that just in
Yes.
case it happened. It
That's
was
right.
like a variance thing. But we
That's
didn't go
correct.
over it in reality. We
And then-
stayed within it, but we
We
did,
had,
And
we
my
voted the
recommendation is
option.
if you do not exceed the tax cap, you should rescind the override.
Correct.
Because you have
and
to.
we've done that.
Yeah, because legally speaking, because then you fill in the controller's documentation, and it's going to be based on the motions that were approved, and, I mean,
Does
you
the
know,
board
I
have
know that,
authority to override the law?
I'm sorry?
If the law is an cap for the taxes, does the board has authority?
Yes, absolutely,
To pass
absolutely.
over
And
the
it-
law?
Yes.
Well,
The
that's part of the
the
law.
only impact, and this is part of the law, the only impact of exceeding the tax cap is that the taxpayers in your area would not get the rebate associated with the library's budget. Some people misunderstood that if any entity that overrides the tax cap, they don't get any of their rebate, you know, the school and the town and all that. And in reality, most
What about STAR? Does
Pardon?
it affect STAR? The STAR rebate, which is your
No, it's a
No,
tax
this
cap
is
rebate.
Because there's something different with STAR this year too. Walker
That,
just
that
said
I,
something.
that I don't know at this point,
Yeah.
but the important thing to remember is that in the case of libraries and library taxes, the rebate is in the dollars or tens of dollars, not like school or town where there could be hundreds of dollars or more. So it's not onerous on behalf of people, and as long as you make the case when you're going out to, we have many of our libraries override the tax cap every year.
And we're gonna have to, or not go for an increase ever again. But let's move on from that.
Just one last question on it,
Okay.
in as much as you're saying that many of the libraries override the tax cap, are we just voting to override, or are we overriding it by a certain
No,
specified
you
amount?
first pass a resolution, an override resolution, which Maryland has the wording for, it's very specific. And then you pass your budget, which is going to be above the tax cap.
So my follow-up question, that's the reason why I was asking it in that order, is there a best practice amongst libraries of what is reasonable versus what is not reasonable
Not
for that
really.
percentage above cap?
Not really, I mean, we've had libraries that have gone out with 6, 7, and 8% increases when the budget cap was .175. I mean, it's gonna come down to how hard the board and your friends group, because you guys can't say vote yes, you can only say vote, but it's gonna depend on how hard the friends group and
Lobbies for it.
you know, sell the idea to people, and you know, you have a budget hearing, you explain, you write articles, you do whatever you can about why you need it. And I think most people are, you know, we have had very few library budgets defeated, period, but certainly not because of the tax cap override.
Okay?
Just want to make sure we were
Yeah.
best practice.
Right.
Is that something we should do tonight?
No, we don't have to do it tonight because you don't have the budget in front of you.
Okay.
Right. It can wait. I'll put it in my next report. Okay. I'm gonna read this too. Each year, the library needs to file a New York State annual report. And in fact, every library does so, and when all of them have been given an assurance, which you will give tonight, then Robert can send them all up and to the state, at which point then RCLS can get its money, all right?
And you get yours.
And we get, right.
You're not eligible for the tiny amount of state aid you get unless you file an annual report. And if you don't file an annual report, the end of that could be losing access to all of your funding.
Correct.
Because it is a legal requirement to submit an annual report. You are not actually approving the annual report. What you're stating is that the library has worked, you know, I mean, I know that Maryland has the wording because we give it to the libraries. What the authentication says is that you have looked at it and that you are you operated within the law, within the education law and so on, and that you're authenticating that that happened.
And of
And in
course,
fact, we've already put a date in, because we have to. We cannot submit the annual report without a date, and some of our libraries, you're not the only one, don't have their board meeting prior to their annual report, but the annual report has to be submitted March 1st. So we've submitted it already, and we had a pretty good idea based on conversations with Marilyn that April might be the month when you guys would have a board meeting, and so we put that date in. That's not to say it can't be changed, but we'd have to then talk to DLD and make the changes.
So you would like us to vote on that tonight, is that correct?
yes,
Yes.
yes, and that's what I'm going to talk about next, okay? The report is sent electronically to RCLS, and when approved there, goes on to the state level. I fill out the first section, which is non-financial, and the old board hired Stephen Straubinger, a CPA, to fill out the financial section. As soon as the report opens online, I provide all trustees with the credentials they need to review that report at any time along that timeline. And also, I believe you all, not you, Jack, or you, Donna,
Or me.
or you, Charlie, because I didn't, but all the appointed people who I knew were coming on, I sent you all of that.
I sleep with one of the other board
So then,
members.
okay, so it's fine. So anywhere along the line in there.
Yeah, that's executive session.
Sorry.
Hey,
I'm trying to figure out who he's talking about.
The report opens and closes in a short window. And so it has to be done pretty quickly, but as soon as it opens, I give all board members the credentials to get in and look at it anytime they like. The Monroe trustees, all you have to do now is pass an assurance, which Robert talked about, so that RCLS can file our report with the state along with the rest. Below is the language for this assurance. Now, most of you have gotten that language because you received my report, but for those of you who didn't, I'm going to read it out. The library operated under its plan of service in accordance with the provisions of education law and the regulations of the commissioner, and assures that the 2016 annual report was reviewed and accepted by the board. That's your assurance language. So you need a motion to
Do that.
say that, and then a second, and then vote on
Who
it.
wants to make the motion? Charlie's making the motion?
I'd like to make the motion that the library operated under its plan of service in accordance with the provisions of education law and the regulations of the commissioner, and assures that the 2016 annual report was reviewed and accepted by the board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Casey seconded. Have a vote on acceptance?
In favor?
Is it unanimous?
I don't think so.
No? Are you,
All opposed?
objecting? Okay, one objection, any abstentions?
I do want to point out one thing. I mean, the financial stuff is done by your accountant, fiscal officer, whoever.
Right.
The only thing that we check, because we don't audit your books, but what we check each year, and we take our responsibility quite seriously, is we looked at the opening balance, is in fact the closing balance from last year's annual report. Excuse me. And that the closing balance in the current annual report makes numeric, mathematical sense as you go through it. We do not question line items. The only thing we might question are state grants, because we know what those are, and if you've gotten a member item, then we would know that is, and if there's an error in that, we might point that out to you. The rest of the annual report, about a half of the rest, are numbers that we provide to you based on the integrated library system, the automation system that all of our libraries use. So those are numbers that come out of the ILS. And then the remainder of that section is our statistics about the programs, program attendance, the number of programs you ran.
FTEs, things like that.
Yeah,
What
so-
about the term thing, that number that you changed? Where
What
it used to be
happened was-
January of
Yes.
the current year and you changed it to December of the
I
year
didn't
prior.
change it. What I used to do is put in the January, because it
Because
happened
our
at our
annual meeting, right, but it was
Right.
changed this year.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that.
the state required us to change it because when they saw the annual report and they reviewed your bylaws, they indicated that it was their understanding that your terms of office are January 1 to December 31st. That's
But
why,
normally, a meeting isn't until the second Tuesday, so if somebody's resigning, for instance, last year, Charlie Pakula resigned at the annual meeting or that evening, would he have had to resign December 31st?
no, because again, your bylaws state, and so does section 703 of the not-for-profit law, says that a trustee remains in office until he or she is re-elected or replaced. So,
But they won't be re-elected or replaced on December 31st,
no,
or
but
whatever the
they
year
don't
is.
have to be. They could be replaced, as we are doing now in April. The point is, everybody stays in their seat until they are re-elected or replaced. But
It
the
just seems
term,
odd to me that it was changed like that, because I'm on
But
other
the-
boards, and it's always whatever the month of the annual meeting.
but they're
It
going
just
back
seemed
to,
weird.
but they're going back to your charter document, and they're going back to.
But a charter is 100 years old, in other words, it's not.
But that's, your
Okay.
charter document, it could be 200 years old, it's still the legal document which
Right,
constituted this
exactly.
board.
Exactly.
And they review that, and the state has been going through, over the last 10 years, a reconciliation of the charter documents because so many of them were wrong. I mean, the information in the annual report was wrong, and your library is not the only one
No, because
who's.
there was a big
whose
discussion of the
terms-
directors for
Yeah.
exactly this question.
Because we found many libraries had lost track of when their people were elected, when their terms of office ended, and
We found also through the years that there were times when you were talking about the current year, and then, like a year or two ago, you started to talk about the previous year.
no,
Like
we're all-
the information that
the
was
annual
given was
report-
different.
You
The
always
annual report
question
has
that,
always
Barbara.
been the calendar year that just ended.
It just
Right,
ended, yeah.
right.
It's always
Like the
January.
same year you're auditing.
Right, well, because you can't predict what we're gonna do in May, June, July, August, September for this
Correct.
year to say, we're gonna give you a report on this
Correct.
year, right?
But when you're listing who the president is,
It's
the
based on-
president
it's
is of the
December-
year
Right,
before
Yes.
or the current president?
Because those questions are asked based on this, who is in
Who's sitting in the
office on
seat now.
December 31st.
Right.
That's the question that's
No,
asked.
but she put in the past, the officer was
No,
of
you
the
always got
current year.
confused, and I always had to send you the actual documentation that
Could
showed.
we not
Yeah.
continue with this
Thank you.
because
Yeah, we did.
it's 5
Yes.
to 11?
I have one
and
last
it's-
thing.
Yes.
But I have one important question about the annual report. Robert, you said that state grants were corrected automatically by RCLS, and in the annual report that we were given copies of, the 90% of our DLD construction grant was not included. 234,000 and change.
Well, off the top of my head, I can't address that right now because I don't think you've received it yet.
We were given credentials, as Marilyn indicated.
Okay, but
to
you
go
haven't
online.
received the money yet. You can't,
we
you know, as a
certainly
CPA,
received it.
you cannot receive money that you haven't received.
We received it in 2016.
You actually received the
Yes.
cash.
We received
I
the
can-
90% and the 10%,
Right.
and only the 10% was reported on the annual report
It's-
of 26,000.
I'm just wondering if it was, well, I have to talk to Stephen because I don't actually review the financials. I can take a look at it. Maybe part of it was included in
I've tried 3
2015.
times, he
I
hasn't
don't
gotten
know.
back to me.
He's on vacation
Oh, is that,
2016.
Yeah,
I was in his office today on a conference call.
No, he's on vacation.
Yeah? Because when I called him on Friday, he didn't, they said, or I got patched through to his voicemail Friday.
He was there until Thursday.
Okay. Which I understand, well, he
Okay,
went
let's
today.
stay on
Yeah,
target
sorry.
here,
Well,
guys.
we can certainly review that. I mean, I can tell you that we submitted our annual reports for the member libraries. DLD came back to us with 22 libraries that they had questions about. Nothing came up about Monroe other than, I don't know if Stephen talked to you or not?
He talked to me and made changes, and then he sent me a PDF of everything, and I sent it out to,
Okay.
well,
So-
not to people who were.
And those changes we were instructed by DLD to make. And some of it was the fact that they had new people, a new person reviewing the annual reports. They've also taken a new strategy that they want accuracy with our charters, and so they've taken a different approach. And we actually challenged some of their questions. A couple of them they backed off on because there's been past practice, and the majority of them they did not. So we are obligated to submit that, and we're obligated to operate within their context. If you want to challenge something and there's something to challenge, I'll certainly listen, and I'll certainly take it up with DLD, and we'll have that discussion with them.
Okay. Okay, my last thing. On Thursday, March 30th, I attended a workshop with, led by Grace Riario, Assistant Director at RCLS, and it was held at 3 different locations. I went to Monticello, and it was regarding minimum standards. The minimum standards are going to be changing, and we were given the option as directors, which was very nice, because probably never happened before, to have our input in. After all, we're the ones that have to deal with the minimum standards. It was a very interesting meeting. A minimum standard in the past has been the number of hours we're open, or the fact that I need a master's degree to run this library because we have over a certain amount of population.
At the moment, we have 11 minimum standards in regulation.
Can I just interject, because I've known about standards for school libraries. Are these new standards,
No.
or
There
are
were
they
some
been in
old ones
place for
being-
public?
There are new ones being proposed,
Yeah.
a host of new ones being proposed, and that's what we were discussing. Not only the old ones and changes or keeping or whatever, but new ones, completely new ones. For instance, trustees would have to do, what, 3 hours?
3 hours of continued education for a year to continue being a trustee of a library.
Right, here's another one. I think directors who became, or librarians, people who became librarians in 2010,
Yes.
had to do 60 hours of CE credit within a 5-year period. The new minimum standard
To retain their certification.
Right. The new minimum standard will be that everybody, myself included, even though I got my degree in '94, I would have to in 5 years do 60 CE credits, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a necessary thing.
It
So,
makes the
that's a new
profession
minimum
viable, it keeps it up to speed.
Well, you shouldn't have to do that.
Now, this is the preliminary review. We're going to feed this back to the Division of Library Development. Then, if they take our advice or comments, they will then release it, and there will be statewide public hearings, because this is a regulatory change. And in order to make it's not a law change, it's under the Commissioner of Education. So, you know, there'll be public hearings in different parts of the state to have the opportunity to talk about it. So this is just the first.
And then the next thing is, do they enforce them?
Well, that's what we were talking about too.
It's gonna come down to
Well,
us pretty much.
part of the enforcement comes from RCLS. I mean, we try to enforce it because, for example, the current minimum standards, it says you need to have written bylaws. What we've asked our libraries, since I've been here anyways, I've asked the libraries to provide me copies of the things that are supposed to be documents that are minimum standards. And when I first started and we first did that, we found that about 60% of our libraries were not compliant because they didn't have those documents. But they said each year, yes. And so, you know, I think most of our libraries are now compliant. You know, they may have out-of-date plans of service, but they have a plan of service.
Right, and that's something that has to be voted on tonight. It's not in my report, and I don't see it on the agenda, but you have to vote on the plan.
No, it doesn't have to be tonight. I mean,
Okay, that's
it
good.
can happen
All
next
right.
month.
You had a question?
Yeah, is there gonna be reimbursement on the CE credits?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not, and you wanna know what, they're probably not even gonna charge money for them.
Okay.
Because RCLS, for example, gives many opportunities for webinars.
I'm just wondering, because my
Thank
wife's
you.
a nurse and she does continuing education credits.
Yeah, most of the
And her
continuing
hospital
education for librarians is
reimburses
free.
once you've completed and you retain your certification.
Right, so you understand that concept?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, and the last thing on my March report that you all have, or some of you have, is a list of our adult programs, which is quite ambitious, so you should take a look at that, and if you like any of them, take advantage of them.
You know, what I'm going to do next is have the vote, because Melanie's sitting here and the union rep just left, and we went into executive session to deal with issues of employee-related matters, and we had 3 different questions, where the employees were owed money because of a mix-up with deductions and things like that. So we have employee 1 who is supposed to receive $326.13. And would somebody make a motion on whether we should pay employee number 1?
We're gonna put them three
it as a
together.
packet.
Are we going to do
Yes.
that? Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, so employee number 1, $326.13. Employee number 2 is due $24.70.
Owed and it's a wash.
But we're saying 0.
Yeah, we're gonna say
It's a
zero.
wash.
0 and 0.
I owe the library.
The other 2 is 0.
And we're paying the first.
Is an active.
Okay, all right, thank you for straightening me up, I appreciate it. So we just have to vote then on number 1.
No,
On the
all-
9 things, that's
all-
all the 3 things.
2 zeros and.
What would I do without you?
See, aren't you
I don't
lunch
even know you. Okay, who wants to make a
I'll make the
motion?
motion. Go ahead.
Okay, and the motion is that we are going to,
Pay
Pay
employee 1.
employee number 1, 300 and whatever you said.
yes,
Employee number 2 and 3 have a 0.
Right,
Yeah,
so we're
zero
basically
without
forgiving
anything
employee
on.
number 2, and employee number 3, it was a 0 anyway.
We're just
Okay.
ratifying it.
So we're just
I'm
ratifying
glad
it.
you all understand.
Yeah.
I second
I'm lousy
the
at
motion.
math. All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Denise seconded it, all those in favor?
I'm sorry, can I have that?
Opposed?
Charlie's in
What was
Sorry, no, no, no.
Abstentions?
340 what?
324.
Any opposed or abstentions?
What
No.
was,
To ratify those 3
324, I don't
employees that
have
we
the,
did in executive session.
The change in front of me.
So
Give me a second.
Does somebody have the exact amount?
Okay,
unanimous.
it's unanimous.
what was the amount
The
that
actual
we're
letter from
paying?
the attorney?
326.13.
Just move over a tiny bit so I can move this now.
All right? So,
Watch your toes.
And I just say on behalf of the staff,
what'd you say now?
I said on behalf of the staff, thank you very much. You're welcome. We appreciate it.
Thanks for sticking around.
Thank you for your patience.
Have a good night.
All right, you two
Before
say
you
no.
go, can I just ask a question? There were 2 other employees who were previously affected by these same issues, and those 2 other employees had to fully pay back the library what they were calculated as owing. So is there a reason why 2 employees had to pay and the other 2 today did not have to pay?
It might be because
Well,
the
I
lawyer didn't bring that up.
Well, the lawyer felt that this was a good resolution to things, so we took her advice.
She also advised that amounts that were outside of an 8-week time period
Yes.
are no longer, because of a recently passed law, anything outside of that 8-week time period is no longer.
It wasn't worth our time or money to pursue it. That was her
Would
advice.
have been great if I had known that at the time, because
And I'll just say none of that affected me.
Yes.
No, truly.
We know that.
No, I know you do, but it is being filmed. I do
Yes,
not owe or
that's true, I
I
forgot
have
that.
nothing to do with it. Here doing my job.
All right, and a good one.
Have a good night.
Thank you
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Report of standing committee and friends, does anybody have a report?
Treasurer report first.
God, I can't read as well as do math, this is bad, it must be because it's after 11. Treasurer's report?
I was gonna say, I defer to
Report,
the.
I just,
Yes.
as part of the annual report, I just mentioned that we had a few withdrawal for payrolls that required second signature, and 4 signatures that allow 2 of them to be used. One is director or assistant director, president, or the treasurer. So some of those checks whether were signed by the president or by me. And non-current payments that was over $2,500, that one was the one that we had to go over and verify, which Mary had occasionally goes over, verifies it, and then we read it again. And if it needs a second signature, one of us will come to the library for the second signature and do it. So all of those are done, and we keep alert regarding the rate changes. So whenever any of the assets of the library matures, we look for transferring or reinvesting in the same institution, as long as it is collateralized and as long as it is higher interest or at least the same interest. So that has been done all this time. We try to limit the withdrawals because most of our accounts, if you withdraw more than 3 times, you pay some penalty. So we arranged and discussed it with Mary and with Maria that the withdrawal would be in the amount that limits that 3 withdrawals, particularly for the payroll. If we want, they need their paychecks to go, and they don't want to wait for the time going on. And besides, paychecks when withdraws, there is some cost involved in it, and by that limitation, that cost was eliminated at most of the time or reduced at most of the time. So that's the process we followed for the checks and the investment.
And that raises the question that you probably need to get new signing authority.
That's
to get
gonna
the
be
bank
my
for.
absolute next
And
question.
I have a couple checks I need second
I don't know that I'm able to sign off on them yet, because I believe signatory cards with the bank would have to be.
Yes, you're
Right.
absolutely correct.
So I look forward to working with you.
One is health insurance.
Yeah, I have health insurance.
And an RCLS bill.
The form is coming.
Yeah, the
in that
RCL
also
last
requires
one. And
the
waiting.
treasurer or the president.
That's a
But
great
for health
thing.
That
insurance,
way,
definitely.
That's my vacation fund.
It is monitored properly, the withdrawals, and recorded, which Mary has done a good job on that. And Maria as well, to keep us informed.
I look
We
forward to
tried-
working with all of you on getting up to date on signatory cards,
These are the
policies,
process
what's
that
content.
has been established and followed.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
when you'll have your authority to sign, because this is a health insurance check?
Again, it just comes down to.
And it can be packed
Why
too.
can't you just
So we'll
make
go
a
right to the
motion
bank.
to have him sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Have somebody
he
that's
still has
authorized.
signing
It's effective.
privileges, so you could
okay.
actually
I
have
can
him sign
delegate,
that
I can
tonight.
delegate to almost if
Okay,
you feel
that's
comfortable still signing
No
this.
problem.
I just want
Do you know the background on this
How about the
check?
RCLS
Yeah,
one too then?
Just so you.
Yeah, if anything needs to be signed, he still has signing capability, have him sign it now.
So,
Yeah, no, for business
Okay.
continuity purposes, it makes sense to
Absolutely.
Okay,
delegate my authority.
let's move
I'm
on.
gonna excuse
Not
myself,
yet,
Grace is
yeah.
here.
Yes.
But,
I
but I'm gonna.
Robert, thank you so much
just
for
go back
your
to bed
time
now.
and your
Thank you.
input and your support. We very much
better.
appreciate it.
then this one is,
Feel better, I can tell you've got a bad cold, huh?
That's bronchitis.
Bronchitis.
Bronchitis, oh.
No withdrawals.
Okay, the reports of standing committee and friends. Do we
Hold
have
on,
any
hold on,
reports?
hold on.
Yeah,
Well,
hold
we
on.
haven't approved financials since,
October.
October. I'm just giving you copies. Look them over, I don't know when you guys are gonna vote.
I don't think we
Okay.
can vote tonight.
No.
Table that till next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the report-
Let me just,
I saw this, I
I'm
saw
gonna
the
go
year
quickly
over
what
year.
it is.
Yeah, I
This is
saw
a
month
recap
over
of
month
20,
and year over year.
excuse me.
Yes.
Recap of 2016 and there's a recap of 2017. If you turn the page, is a copy of Marilyn's report. Then there's a net worth and a budget report. Marilyn and I agree. It's been months. We did when they were printed. I hope they still agree.
He said March was the first time everybody met.
Very simple.
So it's November, December, January, February, March are in there on their way.
Okay.
Denise will give you a copy.
So we will agree to table this for tonight since it's so late. Thank
But
you.
everybody has a chance to look at them.
Thank you, Maria, and we'll look at this and address it at our next board meeting. Everybody comfortable with that? Okay?
need a motion or anything?
I don't think so, as long as we're in agreement.
We generally do make a motion for
Do we
table.
feel we need a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to table it until the next meeting.
Okay, a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, tell me your name when you motion and when you
Terry,
table.
Terry moved to table.
And Donna seconded, I think.
Schumer, and Levison.
Thank you.
Second.
And,
Or
The
Donna.
motion.
No, second was Donna.
I know, I did, and she did it the same.
yeah, so
I-
you wanna fight about it, or?
No,
I just wanna know.
Take care of
Okay, can we have a show of hands, or those who are in favor of tabling it till next time?
Unanimous.
Any opposed? No way. Abstentions? We're good to go. Okay. So, report of standing committees and friends. Do we have any reports?
We gave the reports in the end.
Right. Organization reports of special committees. At the next meeting, we will talk about the committees, and in the meantime, I'll send out a list of the committees to all board members, so you can look them over, and the purpose of the committee, what the responsibilities are. I don't know if you have the bylaws, because it is listed in the bylaws what the committees are, but,
They're on the library website though, correct?
okay, so if you want to go there, but I'll just make a list of them and then you can go and check them on the website. That would be easier than me trying to paste the whole thing. And then think about what you'd like to be involved in, and it shouldn't have to be onerous, you know. Then if you pick something that you enjoy, it should be fun. You know, you got a good group of people here, we should be able to do good things together. All right, and so should we skip right to old business and?
Can I just make one comment about the steering committee? Steering committee has always been an ad hoc committee. Initially, when it was formed, it was to provide for the expansion and the renovation. And then when that was completed, it was next to do with the union negotiations and the contract. So as Laura previously told the board, the contract expires at the end of this year, so it will be imperative that if the board decides to continue having a steering committee, that its purpose perhaps be defined to handle the upcoming negotiations. And based upon Anne Marie's resume, I had thought that she might be particularly suited by her background, although I hear some other new trustees also might have the qualifications to handle that. But the steering committee is not identified in the bylaws, so.
Well, the original purpose of the steering committee was when we were in the process of putting the addition on.
Exactly.
The expansion, so I would say that really there isn't a need
It was
for the
helpful
steering.
for other reasons, like
Right.
Kathy said. It was also helpful this past year because we were able to meet as a group when we weren't a quorum and get things accomplished.
I thought the lawyer said that you couldn't have the steering committee anymore. Didn't she say that?
No, it's an ad hoc committee.
Well,
So
you
you
can
can
actually have the
financial committee deal with that. You have a financial committee, I'm
Right.
assuming?
Yes.
The financial committee usually can deal with that as well.
Your finance committee takes care of all of that anyway.
What's
And the
that?
treasurer is always the
Union
chair of that.
negotiations and
The
things like
financial,
that.
usually it's financial and personnel
Yeah.
committee
Part of the
together.
purpose
We don't
was
have a
at the
personnel
time that
committee.
certain things was happening.
Oh, no, sure.
Before the meeting and vote, such as paycheck for the employees that they have to be withdrawn.
Well, most of those
At
things should be
times,
taken care of in board meetings rather than in separate
Well,
meetings.
it's everybody. The steering committee is 100% of the board. It's not
It is,
three
but,
people or four people.
but then in
You
my,
can take it away if you don't.
in my
That
opinion,
was the purpose.
in my opinion, that's what the board is for, and the steering committee was put in place when we were doing the expansion. I personally don't see any need for it anymore. Now, other people may feel differently, but that's my opinion. We've got enough committees, I think, to do business without, I can't see the point of the whole board meeting for a committee meeting when when you have a whole board meeting. You're duplicating your efforts, in my opinion.
You don't have to shorten it a little, but do it as you like.
Okay, any other old business? New business? Good and welfare? Call for adjournment.
I have good and welfare. The Rotary Club is sponsoring the second annual bowl-a-thon at the Chester Colonial Lanes to benefit Orange County Safe Homes. Last year, we raised $13,000. So that's going to take place on June the 10th of this year. And if the library, the board, staff, anybody is interested in forming a team, the way the teams are set up is there's 5 people. Each member on the team is asked to try to raise $100, and that includes, you know, all of the rentals of the shoes and pizza and soda and door prizes galore. So if it's okay, I would like to send or leave Marilyn with a copy of that.
Yeah, and then you could just email it to her.
Kathy, can I just ask you a question? When we were doing the construction, I think that maybe some of the documents you had them, because we don't have a lot of the documents. You don't have them?
No. All original documents were given to,
You had that big book from Lisa.
Well, I had that from Verticon. I'm talking about...
No, from Lisa. Lisa prepared a book.
We don't, I don't think we have the mortgage closing papers.
Right, there are
We
things
never
we
got
have
those.
missing. There are things missing.
Yeah.
that was given multiple times by Richard Burton.
I don't know. If you could just look, if you wouldn't
I'll
mind.
look through the cabinet and safe again.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Anything
Can
else
we
you
have
want to?
a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 11:17 PM.
Second? All those in favor? All right, thank you, everybody. Great job.